some wild right now.
Yeah. Hey. I let the beat breathe, catch it quickly. I ain't got a second, gotta go fast. I ain't moving quick, I gotta let it pass. I ain't going quick, I gotta let it move slow. Let me think of my rhymes. Let me get in my zone. Take it back to the simpler times when a nigga was young, getting on, climbing up that ladder, one step at the time, taking pantomimes. How I ain't know you. How I ain't used no words to find myself, but I felt it out. Look inside myself and I'm climbing out. Reach to the stars every time that I find it out. I gotta write it back down in my pad. Take it to the stool, record it, it's a jam. Stab at their heart every time your boy mad, but I take a stab every time I get sad. But why lash out, why pass out, why ride, tag in the mag house. Shit it back out, why she ass out?
Why she ass out? Why she ass about clash? Cause I don't move my mouth. I don't know what you fuck talking about. Alright, whoa, let me find my flow. Whoa, let me open the door. Might have to crack a window, but we outside.
Yo, we outside, looking through the window, peeking with the right side. Damn, I can't find a new word, so I tag mine in the back of my mind. Like, damn, there it go, let me find again my plan. I ain't really fucking with the damn rain. I can't even find a new flow, but I'm back. Looking through the window, picking up the blinds. Like, damn, there we go. Stepping on the beat, got a new ego. I can break my shit, shake my shit. Move around the beat till I fake this shit. Like, ooh,
fade the beat, don't stay with me. And I keep the said I keep the case closed. Case closed. Case closed. Hey.
Let's start the show. Hey. Welcome to Vibe Tree Radio. It's your boy West here, chilling with
Mauriwowi, how's it going?
And you know we got a guest. Introduce yourself.
Clash.
Let's go, man. Welcome to Vibe Tree Radio. You know, it's been a long day right now, you know what I'm saying? But it's good to be here. I feel great to be in spring for one. I feel like the weather itself is much more of a vibe at night. We've had some chilly pods. But right now it's a good vibe out. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, usually we know at this part of the podcast, you know, we get a little bit into how we met and how, you know, all of us got together in this thing, because that's a big part of making music. It's a collaborating and kind of using these connections to further your life and kind of reverse engineering that shit, if you will, because I feel like those connections is shit we already kind of have within ourselves, you know what I mean? Like we know different people we meet from these different avenues, but sometimes, you know, the way they blossom into dope new shit is magical, I guess. And like right now, we got one of those really cool opportunities to talk about that and it coming together right before our eyes, because shit, I met you at a open mic type of, it was more so like a workshop, because you was already involved in it. For me, I was my first time ever experiencing something like that, and then I got to see you perform and I was performing in it, and from there, you know, we talked about each other's music and shit, and I actually got to know your art, if you will.
Yes, sir.
So shit, how'd you get to doing that, man? I feel like that's the interesting part of you, man. Like performing for other people in intimate settings and whatnot. Like, was that some shit you always did when you was into music, or was it like, you know, performing and shit like that on like a, how do you say, like small scales, like for personal settings? You know what I'm saying? Is that some shit you always was into, or was it like some shit you eventually like got into later on in your career?
You know, it's funny you ask, because the first time I ever performed anything, right, I was 7, and it was a milli, and I performed a milli in front of my whole family for Christmas. Tears in my eyes, like bawling, because I wasn't supposed to be listening to rap music. My mom, I grew up a little, like, not sheltered, but like my mom's raising all these kids in the hood by herself. She's trying to like minimize all of the like access to drugs, money, like gangs, guns, like all of that type of shit in my life. So music and movies and shit like that was huge. But like growing up for me, I couldn't enjoy shit that everybody knew. Like I'm just now getting into like the real that everybody else is seeing and shit, like shit from the 90s, shit from the 80s, shit like that. I haven't seen it. And so I had always listened to like rap, but at school. And like in passing in the car when my mom would like, you know, like the radio, it might come on some rap music. And it was a Millie. And I used to hear that shit all the time and be like, man, this nigga's spitting. Like beyond belief. I'm like, I have to learn this song. So I used to always like, a Millie. And then my mom was like, do that song in front of everybody that you know. Like, she's like, rap that song for everybody. And I'm like, what song? And she's like, I heard you rapping in the shower.
Jeez.
She's like, I know you know the song, so do it. Like, I want to show everybody that you, like, talented.
Rapping in the shower used to be the most confident moments ever. Bro, like, you know what I mean? Like, I used to really be rapping in the shower and hear myself sounding in ways that I couldn't believe I sounded.
100%.
You know what I mean? And then just be like, what? Like, some of that was hella in, like, part of me thinking I could rap. Because you would catch yourself doing some shit in there, like, just like, what?
You don't even need a mic.
You don't. I think it's because you're like, you feel like you're in your own little world. And so there's, that kind of gives, like, that extra sense of confidence. And low-key, I'm a big, like, we were talking a little bit about, like, water and how, like, the stimulating effects of water. The reason I thought of that concept as the stimulation effects of water was because I was in the shower when it was happening, and like, because it was like when like the water's hitting your head, I just feel like that movement, like even like, you know, like people relax you by like going like small, like slow.
So you're saying like, you were saying like the idea of the running water through your head being a stimulant.
Exactly.
And like, I see what you're saying.
So
like,
it kind of gets
that
you
goes
going
into the idea of like when you in the shower and like kind of just in that extra wild creative zone, like that could play into it. I feel that.
Yeah, I feel like that with that combined with the fact that you're just in your own little world, it just kind of gives it like that extra oomph when you're in the shower, you know?
I also had that shit like on CD too. That was probably one of my first couple shits I remember. Like, I also feel like I already had some people I liked, like Kid Cudi and Wiz, but like as far as personal CDs I had of artists I like, a Millie was like, I mean, not like the Carter 3 was a big one, and then 808s and Heartbreaks.
Hell yeah.
I had that one on bootleg, I remember, and I had the Carter 3. I actually had the album though, which I was hyped about, like with the baby, with him as a baby on it and shit. I remember that one, man. That was great times. I remember that song, Mr. Carter. I remember playing, that was the CD, right? That when I was riding with my family, like my mom and dad, I would, like, you had your CD to put in, because they would be listening to their shit, and I was like, man, well, fuck it. Like, I was like, this is my CD. Like, I want to play my shit. I would always request that shit to be played.
It's my turn.
And I would play it, like, every song, like, at least, like, once or twice, and then my dad would be like, all right, we good. Like, I'm going back to my shit. But that was like, at the time, I remember like requesting to want to bump that. Like, as a young kid, it was that important, like how dope he did on that album. Like, I was just like, man, it's crazy.
And that was the first rapper that really did it for me. And so started performing that at like family event, because that was just that one time. And then after that, I was crying and shit the whole time. But I had a fixing for it now. I'm like, I have to scratch this itch. So like, of course, school choirs, jazz, and all these different things, like, where I'm just like, where can I sing? Where can I rap? Like, where can I do my thing? But no more intimate. Like yeah, I love doing workshops and shit. And shout out Aim for the Heart. That's like where we met. Aim for the Heart. We teach emotional literacy through the arts. So we rap, sing, dance. You can fucking draw. It doesn't matter what you do. We all have a message. This was started by Layla Steinberg and Tupac. You guys met Layla that night. So that's what we do all around the world with dope ass motherfuckers. And that's amazing.
And I've also seen that, I don't know if you were in it, but in the clubhouse rooms. That was the wildest thing. That was my first time experiencing that, because I had a friend that was in there at different rooms, and then he was telling me, oh, you got to come in here. Like, there's different stuff going on. And it was at the time where I had just started before that, like in school, going to more open mic, going to just performing. So he was telling me he knew that I was into that, and I had kind of hadn't done it in a while because of COVID. So then I had found out about some, and one of them I stumbled upon was that one. I went in there once and I heard her talking about some stuff, and then like different music, and then I saw the times and I was gonna come back. I did a different room a few different times, and I played a song and like I rapped over it, and it was interesting. Like I feel like I learned a lot, right? And I'm interested to think maybe if you were involved in any of those things at that time, what did you learn from that experience? Like
I learned. We were on Clubhouse, like, and this is like for everyone to know, like, especially being tapped into the industry. When you want to get in, you got to learn the ins and outs, right? And if you're looking for a way in, if this is like one big conglomerate, one big ass skyscraper, the game. But there's also small little houses and sections in it. You know, it's like a true skyscraper where like floor 13 through 36 is a whole different business than like the top or like the bottom, and all the way at the top might be suites. You never fucking know. And that's the game. You know, there's so many different avenues in it. And so you don't always have to come in through the front door or through the windows and shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, if you could be the electrician, you know what I mean? You could sneak in as the exterminator, whatever you gotta do. And so I'm always heavy on technology.
Yeah.
And where I think the art is gonna go.
Yeah, that's the big part of what motivated me to do it. When my friend was telling me about it, I was just telling him too, like, think about Twitter and all this shit in MySpace in those days when those first couple of dudes was on it, and like putting their stuff out, and the fan bases and that direct connection. Sometimes it's about the way technology and that intertwines with the music and the fans and your accessibility and the new thing at the time. That was the big thing about it, where I was like, okay, this is a place where it's so new that people are gonna come here, and you can kind of have a certain avenue to it. So I tried it out. I did a few things on it. One thing I learned was the audio thing. Like, I learned how like there was levels to how you presented your audio on there.
Hell yeah.
Because I remember I did my stuff and I was like, all right, man, like there were some people that had this set up and then it was sounding like this. And that was just a whole cool thing to me, to see how it was like, damn, like even in this is the future, you know what I mean? Because even in whatever politics you had to face, like in the Atlanta episode when they go to the thing and he got to plug in the thing and nobody got the shit to plug it in. Like he's trying to play the Paperboy mixtape, and then it's like, they're like, no, we need USB. Like, oh, we need this. And then it ain't working. But that was like, whatever next the thing is, you got to get on it, because you got to learn what it is to maneuver in the field, if you will. You feel what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of why I was like, oh, I get it.
And there's a lot of places, not really places, I mean, it's a lot of people. Places like Reddit and places like Discord and Twitter is going to talk about them. And say for me, I know at times I like to be a recluse. I don't like to know all the celebrity gossip and everything else going on. But when it comes to social media, that's where I narrow down what I want to see. I want to see the hottest technology and like what's going on right now. I don't want to see all the bullshit, right? And so there's a huge community of people who's always talking about what's next. They always talking about what's coming. And it might not be right now. Like, say, I found out about Clubhouse, it had to be June of 2020. But at the time, that was for motherfuckers doing, crypto or whatever. Like, that's it. And once we joined, like, because our whole organization joined at once, but this shit was still in alpha, and no one really knew what it was. Very similar situation with United Masters. Shout out United Masters. Yeah. We joined United Masters like a year before it wasn't called United Masters. It wasn't even like, it was a whole different thing. And the amount of reach and the amount of things that you're able to do when something's new.
I'm interested to hear about that, because we've actually only had one other homie on here. It was one of my best friends, actually, and he talked about that. He's the only one that gave somewhat of insight into that, because he wasn't on it really early, and it's the same guy, actually. He wasn't on it really early, but he was on it earlier than most, you know what I mean? But it was already that name. But I remember just hearing about that, like just I feel like that was his drive with it, if you will. Being embedded in whatever the new technology was going to be, as long as it was somewhat serving to what you're going to be doing. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and I got them smoking today. That's some class shit. Even if they keep going or whatever, this is some class shit. Everywhere I go, I bring the party with me. You know how that go. But I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you too.
That's some interesting shit though. I definitely think that United Masters is something that like I have heard about, and I've seen how the rise of it when it came about, people's opinions on it, and then it kind of just like it stayed as a thing. So I like this. That's interesting to you. Like, how did you feel about it in its early beginnings when you like when they told it to you? Like, how did you feel about it? Was you like, this is for me? This is like
for me personally. I always go into all of this shit with an open eye because I want to beta test, and because I want to be in the beginnings of things. Like, I was a beta tester of Twitch. I was a beta tester of Instagram, Snapchat, like so many different technologies because I'm a technology motherfucker. I want to know how people are going to view these things and fuck with them.
How do you get into that? Sorry.
Really? Playing video games. Because that's where I learned what a beta test was. Like, we all played demos and shit growing up. And growing up, I couldn't afford games and shit like that unless I'm, like, doing some shiesty shit. Stealing, robbing niggas' games, you know what I mean? Or stealing, robbing, and this is me as a little ass kid. Statute of limitations is good and everything. But, like, me stealing niggas' games to then go to like GameStop, go to the local hood shop, sell those games, and buy the games that I actually fucking wanted and shit, you know? And I'm like, once we got from Xbox 360 into the like Xbox One, PlayStation 4 era and shit, I'm starting to learn about alpha programs, beta programs, and I'm like, okay, if they're doing this on Xbox, I know somebody's doing it with phones, laptops, somebody's doing it with apps, somebody's doing it with music, somebody's doing it. So
were you into jailbreaking phones at all? Not like you doing it, but like did you enjoy having all this shit on your phone? Or was that like
I enjoyed being able to pick up a computer.
That's the shit you was into? He was into that shit.
and grab what I wanted. You know what I mean? Like, being able to like, okay, this is a game everybody's playing, Minecraft. This is 2010, 2009, and I'm like, Minecraft. And this was alpha. It was not like it is now, by far, leaps and bounds, but it was, okay. And then I'm taking these flash drives and shit to school, and I'm like, hey, guys, when y'all finish y'all projects at school, finish up. And like in computer and shit, finish up so I can put this flash drive in your computer and we could play Minecraft. And motherfuckers like, what's Minecraft? And I'm like, all right, just wait until the whole school playing fucking Minecraft at the like in the beginning of school. Come early, come in the library, play Minecraft, because I put it on every computer. I put it on everything, like on everybody's shit, just so everybody could know what the fuck a Minecraft was. And this was early on. So like, to double back with the United Masters shit, when I got introduced to it, it was a different entity in the way that you could instantly, like right when you signed up and shit, they told you all your real, true analytics. Not, and they still do this now. I think they have like a premium tier or whatever they have going on. But before, this was completely free. You signed up, within a day or two, they told you all your true analytics. You thought you had all these numbers and shit before. They gonna tell you off every platform ever, this is what you actually reaching, who you're reaching, which city. Todd in Nebraska. Not just 3,000 fans in Nebraska. No, it's gonna tell you Todd, Susie, Mary, Lou. And then they're gonna say suggestions. Every day, like twice a day, you would get suggestions. Things that they would think would be beneficial to your brand. Maybe you should drop this. Learn how to make lyric videos. We'll plug you in with people who do lyric videos. Do this, do this. It's just artist development. And that's what it was. Like, you know what I mean? Like, United Masters was strictly artist development. And to the T, you could even reach out to the developers at any moment. They're like the little chat button. You could reach out to the developers and they'll reach out to you within an hour and talk to you about different features you want to add, different things. So it built into this big thing. And once they released it, they made it so, you know, you could release your songs with United Masters. And now it's like a kind of like a
distribution platform.
A distribution platform that also gives you tips and things like that. Things that like DistroKid and things have adapted, but they haven't fully adapted in the way that they've changed like United Masters.
Yeah.
but it wasn't a home for me. It wasn't a fit for me through the change, right? Because me as the artist, I'm just trying to put up my music through a distro service. I'm just trying to have a home where I can pay, hopefully, a set fee, because I'm trying to make as much art as I can and just release. I'm trying to do my thing, you know what I mean?
That makes sense. I see what you're saying. Like, I like how you describe the benefits and negatives too. What do you think about those?
I think it's interesting the way you describe, like you said, the pros and benefits. I think especially the interesting part for the United Masters was the way you described it as like having it be like more of that, this stuff that other companies are just trying to adopt now as like their incentives as to like kind of stay with us, or like here's some extra stuff, but like that was kind of like their core standing before they even went on to the distribution side. So I think that's really cool, because that's something that, like, as far as it's like one of those things is like customer service, you know what I mean? And like that's something that not a lot of companies in general have really good customer service. And that's not even just speaking on on any kind of distribution labels, it's just like on companies as a whole. So when a company, I feel like, focuses on customer service first and like uses that as like their launch platform, I feel like that's usually a pretty beneficial thing, and I feel like that's a pretty dope thing to stand on. I feel like when I came across United Masters, it was in that same vein as like it seemed cool, but honestly, for what it worked out for us, like DistroKid just still seemed like the ideal move for us for what we wanted to get across. And it was, I don't know, I'm still every time it comes down to like dropping like a project, I'm always like kind of re-looking at it and like seeing what it is, because man, I had to upgrade that DistroKid plan like so many times to like, because when you make it with when you're working with other artists and you put them as like a secondary artist on it, like it takes up an artist's spot, and so you have to like, so at this point our account for DistroKid is considered a label account. Like we're at the point where you can put out like 10 artists, but it's because it stacks, you know, it stacks them up, and so it's like,
so each time there's like a new one that you put out along with it, it's like now you need the capability to put out that many, or you have to like establish it.
Exactly. And so like
I'm out here getting them high.
Getting the laptop high.
Getting them out of here.
But yeah, and so like within that, and then also like the certain kind of like distribution abilities with DistroKid, like it came down to like working collaboratively. It was the best option for us at the moment, and we already had stuff on it, so like you said, keeping like a home base is, I feel like, an important thing, because low-key we had stuff, we still do, like our first album was on TuneCore, and like that process of having that and then switching over to another one, like I hate having to log into 2 accounts like to check in on stuff. I wish it was all integrated, but to move it now, it's on some bullshit where you can't just move it. Like you have to physically take it down and then re-upload it. You know what I mean? Like they can't just transfer it for whatever. And it's interesting.
Whole new UPC.
Right? And it's interesting because through podcasting, I've learned, like, I thought the distribution capabilities of podcasting was going to be a lot similar to that. But it isn't. And like the one thing I will say, I wish the music and like distribution platforms took away from podcasting is like the ability to like move shit over, because like with podcasting it's like through an RSS feed, and so it's just like you're just kind of hosting it on this feed, and then you just kind of reach out to Apple and Spotify and all them places and you say, hey, here's my RSS feed. They're like, all right, dope, whatever you put on there, we'll run it through here.
Y'all peep that was game.
Yeah.
And like the thing about it is that you can really use any distribution channel to put it up on an RSS, but if at any point you wanted to switch to like another spot, it's super easy, because all you do is go to another distribution platform that distributes, like that hosts like the RSS feed, and you just like, it'll be like a quick button. It just says like, all right, put in the little link, and then boom, boom, done. And from my understanding, it should keep everything up. I could be wrong on that, so like someone please fact check me, like, but I believe that it's a much simpler process to centralize everything, which is like some shit. But also beyond that, before I forget this, I want to talk about more on like how fucking dope and crazy sick it is that you've been on like the alpha side of like all this sick stuff, because like it's funny to mention video games being the intro into it, because when Wesley left to go pick you up, I was talking.
He already knew. I was telling him that we've been talking about video games for the past like 2 hours and shit. Like as he picked up. But then, crazy enough, one thing I want you to see your point. He mentioned that he used to play Guitar Hero, and I thought that was really cool because most of the time when you mention video games, I remember you mentioning that being a very pivotal point for you.
I'm actually really sad I didn't mention that in my GOATs category earlier. I should have mentioned Rock Band. Yeah, Rock Band or Guitar Hero. One of the two.
He did mention that other game that you mentioned.
DJ Hero.
He for sure mentioned Minecraft in his top 5 though,
yeah.
Which I respect that you brought that up, because I was like, damn, that was in your top 5.
It was. I fuck with Minecraft heavy.
Minecraft's one of those games.
It's just one of those games. But within that, because we had a homie that came through and he was talking about interest in making a game. Now I told him, I was like, yo, once it's there, I was like, please let me be like a tester for this, because I wanted to do like. That idea has been like, it sounds so cool to like try it out and like play a game before it's fully like developed, just to like kind of give feedback and kind of like build on it. That always sounded really intriguing to me, and so like I'd hit him up about that, and so it was like interesting just how you were saying like that's kind of like a common catalyst into getting into that. But I wanted to talk about like more like, because like within that, I'm sure it's a lot of like connection based, and you said it was like, was it mainly through those forums like Discord and Reddit that you were finding these ways to get into this alpha testing?
It's like, for me, really, what really pushed alpha and like beta testing and shit like that for me is really just outside of business. Just like most people, they connect through people, like they might meet people on the day-to-day. In front of people and things, I'm the greatest extrovert. I'm a Leo. Yeah. But in my own time, I need my own time. And so to get into the game, to get into music and shit, everyone tells you, well, you gotta bump shoulders. You gotta meet this person or this person and this person. And yeah, that's a huge part in it. But for me, I didn't always see just this straight path. It's much like outside of here right now, it's dark as hell. You know, you might not be able to walk through that straight path. It's very rocky. You might trip a couple times. You might end up going the wrong way. You don't really have a compass. You just have your heart, you know, guiding you. And even sometimes your heart could lead you the wrong ways, right? And so for me, especially with the whole beta thing, it's like I'm following my heart on different things that I believe might just take off. It might just like, yeah. Because when I started making music, I was making CDs. I was burning CDs, selling my music on CDs. This is 2009. This is a long time ago. As I've evolved, I learned about CD Baby probably 2013. And I'm like, okay, like this is how I get my shit on iTunes. But no one else knew. Even like famous motherfuckers was still selling CDs. And I'm like, this is nuts. Like motherfuckers don't know how to get on iTunes. Okay, this means I'm becoming a little bit more established. Now when I meet someone like a Wes, someone like a Malvi, I could be like, yo, okay, so y'all know how to get on iTunes? Because I'm on iTunes. And y'all might be like, oh yeah, for sure, we on there. Oh, that validates him. That validates him that he knows, like, on the professional side, how to work this shit. Because a lot of people might have dope shit, but if you don't know how to work the machine, you just playing, you know? And so that was my foot in the door. My foot in the door has always been, okay, I'm going to get privy to how y'all moving. Before I go to Beverly Hills or anything, how y'all dressing? What kind of stores and shit?
So being on the beta side of, like, creativity in general, like being early on shit, you early on experienced that was where strides were made. Like just in other areas, just being there before CDs, everything. You're just like, whoever's there before has the avenue to put other people on and to go further.
Friends.
That's true. You have the avenue to put other people on and go further. Makes sense.
And some shit you might find like, okay, like say like with Twitter for me, I used to have a nice ass like popping little Twitter, but it became this toxic space for me. A space where I'm just spewing, and we remember Twitter back then. It was just it was a toxic spot, and so for me, it's like, okay, let me delete this shit, cause when I say something like a tweet, motherfuckers gonna retweet it, right? I post some music, maybe like 3 people might retweet it, maybe a couple might like it. Okay, so y'all not really even here for that.
That should be the worst. Like, it'll be like, I talked to this randomly a few times, but like some real salacious ass shit I'll freestyle about when I'm really feeling some of this shit. A whole bunch of people will like get commenting on and all kind of shit. When you really trying to market a fucking song or just push some shit you just really like, not that many people will like it in comparison to just like you just spewing some shit, if you will.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They'll just be like on some like, all right, like, I don't know, it just seems like that, like, especially in Twitter, also is one of those areas where those type of things people tend to gravitate to more. So it almost makes you feel like, like, is this the space?
And just like the same for me with like Snapchat, or even say Discord. I love Discord as a service. I love Snapchat as a service. But for my music, my heart at one place led it there and told me like, this is a spot, like everybody is just watching you all the time, so you have a place to just show them the studio and shit. A lot of rappers have found out, and a lot of artists have found out, okay, people don't want to see the studio and shit like that all the time, you know what I mean? People don't want to see all of your day-to-day, and so it's like, okay, how can we do that? And then Instagram came out with Reels and shit like that, so it was just like, okay, Snapchat not for it. Discord can be, if you're in artist circles and shit like that. There's some amazing artist circles, but also I don't want to join a space where we're just blindly supporting people, or only supporting people that are already pre-existingly popping in their own little area. And we especially with Clubhouse and different services, you'll join groups and motherfuckers will be like, this motherfucker could talk, this motherfucker, everybody make sure you follow this guy or this person.
See, that was the one, I'm glad you spoke on that. That was the one thing, I'm glad I didn't really get to experience like going to your rooms, but in other rooms I noticed that shit a lot. And that was one of the things that somewhat turned me off as an artist, because it felt like as trying to go there and just kind of like put out new shit and see what new waves, remember the experience I had where I got confirmation and disconfirmation in the same instance, where I liked it, where I got like that experience where it was like, oh nah, like some fools were just like, yo, cut this shit off. And then there were some other fools that they're just hyping, where I felt like the sentiment of the people that they were hyping was just whatever was more formulaic or possibly to be for the radio. Like that was the scale they were scaling it on, and whoever was already on the heels of doing that or already had shit going in the area, they were like, this is the guy. And then when they were doing like reviews and shit, so you know, you saw some shit and people talk about it, but one guy was in there and they started saying different shit, and I was like, you know what I mean, I'm like, whatever, bro, like this is what it's for, you know, I'm listening. And then some guy said some shit about how I could see that song being in like a movie, like he really liked it, like he saw it specifically for like some real, like, you know, some cinematic shit. And I was kind of just like, all right, this is what real life is like when you get 30 people in a room, and like sometimes one person is gonna really fuck with the shit that you like, and then there's gonna be people that don't miss it, but that one guy that really fuck with it kind of lets you know that you're doing what you were set out to do. Because there's some other people that was like, yeah, your flow's decent, this was that, but like he rocked with it on another level. But it was kind of what you're going for in the sense of like, I don't know how you say, like you might connect with a real fan in a different way than say you could win over the majority of the people in that crowd, if you will, right? Going one approach. And I went over one dude in that crowd, but I feel like I really got his shit, and he fucked with it on a different level where you could possibly do more work and do other that. You know, if I would have just garnered everybody to be like, yo, that was dope, they might have just been saying that because I hit them in what they were looking for. You know what I'm saying? Or I just presented myself as that guy. Like, you know what I mean? But I don't know if it would have really been for the betterment of my art. Like,
in the few forums that I've tried to dabble in, like, doing, like, I haven't done any, like, apart from, like, school assignments where, you know, like, the class critiques it, which I will say I was working on a couple, like, songs for the Vine Tree at the time, so, like, there was some songs that did get critiqued in that manner, but I feel like even then, people rarely will say, like, negative things, and I was gonna say in the online forums I've tried, like, I feel like, especially because, like you said, it's the rules of, like, how it is set up, like, in those it was, like, you have to provide feedback to, like, one people, so most people would just be like, oh, cool, or, like,
and this one, at least not everyone had to, but, like, that was the guise of it. You know what I mean? Like, if you speaking up after, like, almost to show respect, like, especially if you, like, the people that kind of commented on yours, you're probably commenting on theirs when they put their song up. You know what I'm saying? Because you'd be listening like, okay, da-da-da. But that was he did also have a little bit of criticism just on the tip of, like, missing it and shit like that. But I liked it because it echoed what the other people were saying, but I could tell he didn't miss what it was going for. Like, he still said the same critiques that they had. It just wasn't like that critique wasn't like, you know what I mean?
Didn't
like,
overpower it in the sense where
yeah, like, for them, they were just like, well, fuck, bro, like, what do you know, they just was like, I don't know what you're going for with this shit, bro. Which is cool, because I just feel like that's what it's like in real life.
100%.
You know, some people can get it, some people can not, and that's really how you gotta, like, approach it, to kind of just keep taking all those shits with a grain of salt to some degree.
Facts.
Even the good shit too, you know, and you don't want to get too hyped.
No, that's real. That's 100%. You don't want to get too gassed up on your own farts.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But so it said one thing you mentioned I was interested in. How'd you get into DJing? I know that probably came before music and producing and shit like that.
Yes. So again, I couldn't grow up listening to rap. So because of that, I had a thirst for music that a nigga couldn't find, right? Like, it's like most people, you grow up, unless you live in, like, a secluded household or, like, a fucking under a rock island type, and shout out all the under a rock island type motherfuckers in the world. I see some motherfucking shit. Like, you're looking, like, you're searching for some shit you don't even know exists. And so for me, I'm like, man, like, I remember the first time, like, one of my best gifts I've ever received in my life was a boombox. And I was 8. That was Christmas. 8 years old, right? And that was the first time I could afford something, like, my family could afford some shit like that. And so, man, I used to just flip through them channels and find anything I could find that would move me. And I would listen to the radio. Like, I would fall asleep with my pillow on the little boombox. Probably fucked up my neck for years to come from now. I probably don't know now. But when my doctor tell me years from now, I'm gonna be like, it was that boombox when I was sleeping like that, just listening to what I could. And at the time, T-Pain was really killing it, right? And so I'm like, how can I
drink?
T-Pain, and then I heard this nigga, and it was just the hardest shit I ever heard in my life. Soulja Boy, fuck is you talking about? Nigga, I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. Had to learn how to burn CDs. Had to. Now, we ain't had no, like, computer at the time at home. And it wasn't until a year or two later that we did get a computer. So, yeah, I could burn CDs in, but at the time, I would have to go to the library with my library card, go rent a motherfucking CD, then go over to somebody's house or whatever that knew how to rip CDs, burn CDs, you know what I'm saying? And then, like, be able to have that song or a mix of songs. So that's where my thirst of music came from, and I think that's what makes a real DJ outside of the equipment, because you don't need no equipment, or like some of the original DJs, you don't need no fucking equipment. What you need is that music. You need that ear and really the thirst for good sound. Sounds that's gonna move everybody. I don't give a fuck if you do it in front of somebody that don't speak your language or whatever the case. Can you throw it in front of them and they'll be like, oh yeah, they're
that's
doing
definitely shit when I'm young I always, like, saw and was attracted to in music, like playing, like, I'd say I probably, bro, like, my shit on the speakers I connect to, bro, people didn't see my shit and I had to clear it out because it looked too wild. You know what I mean? Just seeing all the speakers you connect to. But over time, when I was young, I realized that that's about having an ear. Like, becoming that person in those spaces that, like, people want you to play the music because you're going to do that. And it's not like you need equipment. Like you said, it's because they know that you're going to play this fire song after this fire song. And it's going to be not just shit we just heard. It's not going to be not just old shit. It's just going to be just shit that fits each moment. That's just, it hits us. And I remember that was something I feel you always loved. I don't know if I ever took it to the level of like doing it for people when I was young, which I wish, you know what I mean, or doing it in a mixed setting. I kind of just would do it like on the scale of just trying to go to parties to have that experience. Like I remember when I moved to have my own place a little bit in Monterey, that was my favorite part about it. Like I would fucking try my hardest to throw parties, bro, just to have a curated aux playlist, like because I felt like that was one of the dreams I always had, you know, of just having a party like that. Like, and I actually ended up having a homie from the UK, shout out Jules, that fool DJ'd my pad when I first moved in there. Just some fool I met, he was a DJ, he DJ'd it, another homie from Spain, and it was just like, got to have that real life moment of just being like, damn, like this is crazy. People are right here feeling like
my favorite.
Shit. Cause I went on like a little after, like I hit a little like late set right after they didn't finish. Nobody wanted to rock no more. I was like, all right, I'm gonna play all the, like you said, shit that people just haven't really heard. But I just really like, shout out, you were Overdose, like the group, like they from out here. They old from back in the day, yeah. Cause out there they hadn't heard that shit like that. You know what I mean? At all. And I was just like, oh, this is the time to rock some shit like this. This is gonna blow their mind. Like they gonna hear this and just be like, what the fuck?
I ain't never heard nothing like this.
Yeah.
And that's that shit always been prevalent in my life. Is just having that shit, and then like also having a crate, you know what I mean? Like having a little stash of some shit that you know no one's really heard, keeping it in the stash where you're like, this is my shit, this is my song. And with the CDs and shit that helped. And then into high school, like by the time I got to high school and shit like that, I'm the DJ for my school and the head MC for 2 years. So I'm like, say like Kodak Black or like big artists will drop a song yesterday, and because I already had it yesterday and no one else has heard it, I can edit out the curse words. I already know the song and shit. I'm already in my production bag. This is years later into my like musical grind, you know, but I'm learning how to do crazy shit. So I'm playing shit like Nipsey Hussle and shit at school. I'm playing some of the craziest songs that you wouldn't believe you could even play at a school because they're not saying anything that they can't say. And so since I'm so tapped in with the faculty and shit like that, never one time did they ever tell me not to play a song. Even a couple times, you know, curse words might happen, things might happen.
Bro, but that comes from that inclination to like want them good music. To know that good music and be like, nah, I'm gonna figure out how to play this shit on here, bro. Because I remember feeling like I haven't had much of that because I got into that later. But I did a radio show at the school at my college over there, and I remember that was why I got the late slot, and we had to hit them up because it was like, nah, we wanted to play, we wanted to go all out, and that was the way to do it. Like we was able to curse if we played at like 12. It was like we could work up, start killing the set, and if they really like this shit, you know what I mean, they might let some curses slide at 11.
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was really kind of just like about getting people to rock with it and that part about it. Like, you know, so that was cool. I like how your motivation for that shit at that time drove you to be like, nah, like, you know what I mean? Because you knew all this shit and you're like, well, nah, I'm not going to just play clean shit. You know what I mean? Like I know way too much music. I know way too much jams and shit. Like
you can't. There's songs that motherfuckers want to hear and they wish they could hear. I mean, like the DJ is just helping people express.
I got you. Like you trying to get the people what they want,
what they need. Shit, if you at school, you in traffic. You know what I mean? You at a party. Motherfuckers came there with an objective. You know what I'm saying? Like you have something to do. And you're just looking for a better way where you can express yourself and do what you got to do at the exact same time. And that's where DJs come in. Shit, I mean...
You facilitating the vibes, definitely. Definitely facilitating the vibes for everybody that's coming in there.
Hell yeah.
Because, like, without that shit, what is it?
What the fuck is it? What did we just come to? What are we coming here for? You know, it's so much deeper than music.
That's facts. That's very true.
Damn. I feel like... Would you ever Did you ever play DJ Hero, the game?
I played it like once or twice. That was the one of like the
Guitar
when
Heroes.
it got to that point of like the Guitar Hero line, like I stopped playing as much of like Guitar Hero. I think that was when I transitioned more to like Call of Duty or something like that. But because I also like, I think what happened was that I was playing a lot of Rock Band, and I would go over to my cousin's house. And at this point also I had switched schools. So once I switched schools, I no longer had to go over to my cousin's house. And so like I was staying at home more, and he had DJ Hero. So I played it like once or twice at him, and it was at his house, and like it was right as that game came out. It was like roughly when I switched schools. So like I remember like just barely playing around with it. So I never got to fuck around with it too much, but it was a really cool game, and I really liked the concept of it. And I feel like on a mixing board or like on a DJ board like that, like our DJ console, it's super sick, like the kind of stuff you can do and kind of manipulate the vibe and kind of set the vibe, and you know, and do on like the creative capabilities from that end. But the closest thing I've ever had to like DJing something like, I've had like two things. One, I guess, went well, one didn't. One was with like because I played high school volleyball, and we had like a warm-up playlist that we were allowed to make, and so like me and like Connor and like a bunch of the other volleyball members as well. Yeah.
I can see getting like the room to get sauce with that. In the same capacity, like where it's like you had to get sauce within the system that you was in, but you still was like, nah, like I gotta get sauce in this because it's for everybody.
Exactly. So it was on that same vein of like trying to figure out like clean versions of songs. But for us, I wasn't editing any kind of music at that point, so it was just whatever YouTube had to offer at that moment. But a big part of it was, like you said, the necessity of it is setting a vibe, because the songs that were there were they were meant to amp us up, and low key, like they were on some funny shit of like trying to put songs that would kind of like calm the vibe down when the other team would be warming up.
That's crazy. I didn't think about that. Like, so you was trying to get psychological with it.
It was some psychological warfare. Like
you're like, instead of just like us all getting hyped, you're like, nah, like let's like.
It was, oh my god, this shit wouldn't run my eye. But yeah, it was exactly like that, and it was like a precedent that like the school was already on. Like that was just like the vibe that they had done, I guess, like for some time, and so it was just always kind of like, all right, kind of keeping the tradition alive on that end. But it was catering like a need, and catering like that. The only other time that we had tried, like we had a house party, and we tried putting up like a playlist, and that we spent so many fucking hours into like trying to cater this, what we thought would be a perfect playlist.
When once niggas got drunk, bro, they start walking over there like, how do we change this shit? I remember that. It was fun though, but it was because the people was on their like vibes. I remember that.
Exactly, and the thing was, and that was my first introduction into because that was the first time we had to make like music for like a party scene, and it was interesting analyzing it, because sometimes what you want to listen to isn't what other people want to listen to, and like you said, you need to cater to what they need. You know what I mean? And so like
they need to get going.
Exactly. And so like
ball so hard.
That's funny. Gets the people going.
You did.
But it was like, I had, after that, it soured my experience with it. So I was like, all right, I know the kind of effort and energy it takes into commanding this, and I just didn't want to involve myself with it. And I have nothing but respect for like the people that can, because I know that.
Speaking on that, I was gonna ask you, who are some of your favorite DJs or DJ sets you've gotten to see?
DJ sets that I've gotten to see,
or DJs if you don't, I don't know if you haven't seen them.
I'll be on there was two the off tops when you said that that came to mind, so I guess those
DJ Clash.
Oh, yeah. As well but I was gonna say K Tronada and
huge.
And I feel bad for not remember this gentleman's name, but the guy that was performing for the Freddie Gibbs and Madlib concert.
Oh, we missed him this week. Joe K.
From
Selection.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like we caught like the tail end of it.
Yeah, we went to CC was his opening. He had a really hard opening. I mean, I never seen him before, but what I really enjoyed
drinks like during the time when he was
he put on what's that shit called? City of God and Belly. It was like chopped up as his visuals, like those two movies, and I was just like, damn, I really like those movies. So that shit resonated with me. It was songs, he was mixing other people's songs sped up and shit. But I'm interested in that. What do you think about this new? I saw this recently. This new trend of sped up music.
Like the hyper pop Johns.
Yeah, like, because I've seen versions of songs now people are posting out where it's like a mix of it, or someone will put out a mix and it's all sped up and
the whole song. It's getting real sturdy. First I say today, shout out to everybody in New York in the way that they mapping their sound out right now, right? Like, how do you evolve the drill sound? Like, a lot of older rappers or older artists, the reason they couldn't get into our music when we were like 14, 15, 16 is because it was sped up. They're used to dancing like, this is how we do it. It's a
different bop.
It's a whole different bop. Whereas we're like, sauce it up, do too much. And it's a whole different BPM. They're used to something from like 70 to tops like 120 BPM. Our shit, you gotta be at 150 automatically. Every song is already a banger.
Yeah.
Right? So how do you evolve the drill sound, say over here in the West Coast, or the trap sound, right? Because we like the trap sound a lot more. The South like the trap sound. So we said, chop it, screw it, slow it down. Instead of keep speeding it up, we slow it down. We'll fix it up in its own way. The drill sound said, okay, these beats is already hitting. And we saw a lot of people in the UK and shit really turn up the 808. The 808 that we like kind of got tired of over here in the States. Like, we got tired of that. But the UK was like, nah, that's hot. And spin gangsta cold shit on it. So then, I mean, drill stayed alive. But how do you evolve that? Speed that bitch up. You know what I mean? And then, so like, I see it. I see motherfuckers now. And this no smut on nobody name. That's no shit on nobody. Shout out to everybody's musical sound and the way that they doing it. But I could see as the artist myself, okay, instead of using just pure black paint, you use some charcoal paint or something. You know what I'm saying? It makes it special in its own way. It's still the same painting though. Right? And that's not a diss. I'm saying it's still the same New York sound. They're just evolving it in a different way with the hyper pop and through Twitter and motherfucking TikTok. Now we seeing a lot more people than just New York doing it. So now you're seeing like you might pop in Connecticut from a song like that now off of just TikTok.
Yeah, that was another thing I forgot to mention earlier when you said about like the kind of people in like what platforms and what they support. And I feel like TikTok's one of those things that rose because people feel like it's not just people that are already popping. And I hear that a lot, like the algorithm in that it's like kind of like
random.
Random people that just could pop off a lot of times that while everyone is seeing, versus a lot of shit where it's like they're not, like, random shit isn't popping off as much. I guess I've heard that a lot about in TikTok.
Y'all got me thinking about this. So, because you're talking about like BPM.
Mm-hmm.
And like the BPM is like our heart rate, right?
Right.
And so like the higher BPM is like the higher heart rate. And so like it's people kind of getting amped up and going through shit. And I feel like maybe that's part of the reason why like songs like in the hyper pop and like the drill side of things are like so popular on TikTok, on a platform that is like known for being like quick things. Like even the visuals on it are usually like quick transitions or quick things. Like, don't get me wrong, there's a variety of everything on there, but we're talking about the stuff that's like popularized and getting like taking this vibe. And so like it's interesting to see like that correlation of just like people like getting amped up, wanting to go through things quickly, and like as a result, like the music kind of catering with that as well.
And shout out all of the pioneers, I feel like, of the new hip hop sound of hyper pop, like the hyper hip hop. It wouldn't be shit without Lil Uzi Vert. Yeah. It wouldn't be shit without Playboi Carti.
So especially, man,
McConan.
Like, I definitely shout out Playboi Carti not a lot, but thinking of like when you mention Uzi, I think of like the Foot Shuffle and shit.
Because that DDR, like, even turn it, like, okay, if everybody making loud hot music, that's like, how do you turn that up? You add a little dance to that motherfucker. But more than the dance, and this is something that a lot of like big hip hop heads know. Busta Rhymes went on record to say this in his Drink Champs. Some of the best rappers, you could tell they know how to dance.
Yeah.
Right? Like the rhythm that you're using is fit for people to be able to dance, to be able to move to it. A lot of people could spit. They got some dope ass bars, or they could sing. They got some cute ass licks, but they might not be able to perform that or present that to the people in a way that they can move or emote. You know what I'm saying? And so it's huge as someone like Lil Uzi to be able to like influence, and I feel like that's disco influence, but use the disco influence in or the samba, like so many different forms of music that are just meant to make you dance. And you can't make that music unless you know how to make motherfuckers move. And so now everybody's on TikTok dancing and shit. And a lot of kids coming up are thinking, they in their room just like we was thinking, how do I perform this? For us, it was more like, how do I make it seem like I'm popping? How do I make it seem that I'm more popping than I am? Is the better term, right? And now kids, like we're saying, they are broke even more than we were broke, because they're at home during fucking Corona. A lot of their parents might have lost jobs, different things. You know, life can fucking change.
And so the shit's more expensive.
Everything's fucking expensive. So how are they gonna be able to get seen, get known? Who's gonna want to hear about me? I'm from fucking Connecticut. I'm from this. I'm from Indiana. I'm you know what I mean? Like, what do I do? And so these kids are like, well, I mean, we all dancing. We all making TikToks. If I could just make a really funny song where everybody makes a TikTok with it, I'll be on. If I could make a song where everybody would dance to that bitch, and what is most likely they gonna dance to? I don't know how to make like love songs and really songwriting shit, but I know how to make something like then like the song Clappers. Like it's like a little kid. It's like, man, she give me nothing.
Oh yeah, I was gonna hear it's like a TikTok song or no?
Yes, it's a little TikTok song. Yeah. It's a little 13-year-old boy. This little boy didn't change his whole fucking life. He don't know what he rapping about. He don't know what he talking about. He talking about shooting and hurting people and doing that, and he doesn't have the time yet to evolve. But over time, this just gave him the start. This little nigga could evolve into the next Malcolm X. Who knows? President. You never fucking know. So,
damn. I mean, I guess I'm curious to say, I guess if that's the time now and how kind of people are looking at how they maneuver their career, how did you look at maneuvering your career, kind of going from like being a DJ at school and auditorium into like pursuing it as like putting out shit? Like, how did you see, I mean, I know you probably maneuvered in the same sense of kind of be ahead of the curve, but how did you go about that when it came to like releasing music and like putting out music?
Well, for me, I make music every day. I'm not living it if I'm not making music. I've always been that way. My first song that I put out, like with the video and things, I was 11. The next song didn't drop until I was like 14. But in between that, I knew I had to learn. It's a learning experience the whole way through, especially for me. Through video games, through DJing, through playing sports, through like playing in bands. I have this competitiveness like in my heart, so it's just like, I know I can't step on the big boy court yet, you know. I want to be around these big names, I want to be around these people, but I always tell myself, I want the right song, I want the right message, I want the right idea that I could get in front of this person. I don't want to just be around them and waste my fucking chance. And some people like Mac, right? I wish I could meet a Mac now. Back when I was listening to him growing up, nah, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, I can't meet Mac yet. I have to be able to rap. I have to be able to spit. I have to be able to, come on, what are you talking about? And so, like, for me, releasing the music, it's an evolving thing. And it has to be. It has to be, man, maybe right now I'm on a fast. And that's something that's huge throughout our life, right? Being able to have the discipline, give yourself the discipline and say, I'm only doing this right now, or I'm not doing this right now. And you have to have trials.
No, that's facts, bro. Because I feel like that's how I created the father figure song that I was showing you. And I was telling Mauricio about that. Recently we've been talking about that a lot, how like I'm freestyle a lot of my shit. When I got with him, I started getting into freestyling, so I delved deeper into it. But sometimes the battle between freestyling and writing for me is that fast. It's that fast of like one that just builds up the hunger for the other, if you will. And like that's kind of how I went about that song. Like I had kind of fasted that part of myself for so long that when I came in there and decided to just like write, it was really like ripe, if you will, like my feelings on writing. And then, you know, then you take some fasting from freestyling and your feelings on that get more right, where you're like, damn, this is the vibe. Like, so I definitely think that that's something I've always felt like artistically is a big part in, like, even if it's just whatever medium you express, like taking the break and letting it build up in a sense, for like the fast from just letting it out lets it build up for you to have more to let out.
It's like a special move in a video game, and you gotta know your cooldowns. You gotta know, like, I can't use this all the time. It's like, I mean, many analogies and things. You gotta be able to set your own trials and boundaries, you know, and that's fucking huge for me, is being able to say, okay, I'm on right now I'm on a 30-day grind, but like, cause I do still work a normal job as well as doing all this artist shit. And so with my job, I'm like, okay, I think I want something different right now. Not necessarily that I need the job, but that I need to feel something different. But I don't want to just up and quit. It's good money, good experience, all of that. So if I'm going to change, how about I put myself through it for 30 days. I'm going to go on a 30-day grind. Shout out Payroll Giovanni. And so for the 30-day grind, I'm going to stack up all my bread from the job. I'm going to sit at the crib. And if I'm not at the crib, I'm fucking recording music, doing some artistic shit. Other than that, nah. Stacking my chips. Right now, I'm at like day 19. I didn't work 7 days in a row right now. Tomorrow will be 8. Right? But it's all a part of the grind. I know that I'll never have to do this again. And it, like, just like I'm doing it right now, I'll never have to do this shit again because I'm doing this trial. I set this quest. You know, the maker in me gets to create some quests too. It's not like other video games where somebody's constantly giving you side quests and main quests. That we all know there's big main quests, but you could always switch your main quest. People forget that about the game of life. You could always switch your main quest. And if you get too focused on one main quest, I believe in God. Whatever you believe in is up to you. But I feel like God will change your whole life. You get stuck on one path too much, God will be like, well, now you can't walk no more.
100.
So how you gonna do it? And now it's up to you to either continue on that path, which will be a lot more rockier, or switch up to some whole new artistic shit, some whole new vein shit, you know what I mean? And it's up to you. So it's really about setting those trials for me.
I feel like that resonates a lot with what you talk about, what you've been saying a lot when it comes to like New York. Yeah, I feel like it resonates a lot with what you've been saying when it comes to New York, in the sense of like being, like you said, the creator of some of these your own like trials and the next thing. Like I feel like that resonated a lot with what you have expressed to me on that tip of like, say like when we talked about the idea of like while we have issues, like you said, there's things that, you know, get thrown at you when you kind of sit in place. But it's almost like, why sit and wait for those things? Why not make one of my own bigger ones? It's like, when I sit out of this one, I'm done. You know what I mean?
100%. So, like, I honestly haven't spoken about this on, like, I've kind of alluded to this in some aspects, but because I'd gone through my trial, like, I guess I'll say this. This started a couple months back. I was working in this restaurant, and I started growing tired, like
popping spot too as well, similar to you guys, but down out here.
Yeah,
not out there.
It was a really cool spot, and like I loved the spot because the best thing about it was that it was full of artistic people, like creatives, every day. And as much as it was like a place to like eat and have fun and whatever, like it was also like a place to work. And so like I would see people come through and work every day, every morning, and like that shit killed me because like at a certain point, like they were doing the shit that I wanted to do, and like I just wasn't doing it to an like, because like for me, like the job was like super far from like where I live, so like there was probably minimum 2 hours out of my day in commuting, like going and coming back, right? And like on top of that, so like the job was fucking exhausting because like I'm on my feet all day. I worked full shifts usually, and like I would be the person to like stay late because like I'd be more than happy to help, and like I'd just come home exhausted, and I'm like already have other shit that I have going on. I'm walking my dog, like I have to like eat, and like barely like couldn't really focus on anything like artistic for the longest time. And so like on one end it was like kind of like a self-enforced fast that like I couldn't work on shit, right? But so I was growing tired of that, and I was like, I need to move on and do some other shit. So I set like a date of like February. I was like, I want to move back to New York because I've been wanting to go back to New York for some time, because I fucking love it there. It feels like home.
It's calling your name.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It feels more like home than here does, honestly. And in a certain sense, like I've been wanting to go back, and like I was like, all right, I'm gonna go back, but this time when I go back, I want to not be working in the restaurant industry. I want to just go in and like do my own shit and like push my own career forward. And so my plan was to kind of stack up my bread until then, right? But like,
it's like you're out of breath, bro.
Huh?
So you're out of breath, G. I'm like, get some water, G. So you about to die.
Because this is a sensitive topic. This is where it's hitting. You know what I'm saying? And my boy's speaking from the heart.
Yeah, I am, bro. This is something, like I said, I haven't really spoken in depth to about anybody. Maybe other than you. Like you're the only person who really knows like most of these details. And so, what it was is like you said, like there was just like there was something else in store for me. Like I was hoping that I was gonna have that time to stack up, but like I actually ended up getting fired, and that was some shit. Cause like,
was it some bullshit?
No, it was 100% justifiable because
like he already, these feelings that he expressed, those feelings he kind of already was feeling them.
Yeah, cause the thing was,
that was
like,
previous to the fire.
This was like months and prior. I was like,
you felt the fire coming.
Thing was, I thought it was gonna come way sooner because, like, honestly, like
he was already been feeling like that. Like he ain't fuck with it no more. Like
I was honestly surprised they let me rock for as long as they did. But I think it was because, in my like humblest opinion, like I felt like I was a really good worker, and like I like really.
So they didn't want to let him go too easy, but he was checked out, if you will.
Exactly, like
during quarantine and shit.
Like like I'd be lying if I said like I didn't like show up like late and like a little lit to work like every day. So like at a certain point they just kind of like were like, all right, this shit is. But
you wasn't looking at it like I'm trying to survive this. You know what I mean? He was looking at it like this could come any day, so I'm not really tripping on it.
Exactly.
Like, I'm gonna just let it happen if it happens.
Exactly. So like I wasn't too hurt on it, and so like
that's one way to look at it for sure.
And then the last couple of weeks that it was like kind of like dwindling to that point, like it was really looking like, oh, it's coming soon. Like I was just like, all right, like I'm gonna just fuck around and have fun. Like
wait, how do you know it was coming? Like were they talking to you like a little different?
Yeah, like
they're like, yo, what's up?
You feel me? You like, hey, what's up, everybody? And they're like, hey.
Well, it was just like the HR like guys. Everyone else was like surprised. Like the day that I got fired,
everybody else, like your coworkers, ain't know.
No one, like everyone was like, I mean, if they did know, they played it off really well. But
I feel like they didn't, because when I met them later on, like they low-key looked like they felt bad.
Yeah,
like they looked like they was like, damn, my nigga, like they didn't have to do you like that. Like they, you know, like they didn't look like they were like, fuck, like, you know.
There he goes. They go.
Yeah, they didn't look like that. They didn't look like that.
But it was, but honestly, like when they handed me like the thing, like they gave me this fucking the fire slip or whatever, like. Or like the you're fired slip in like a fucking orange envelope, right?
Oh, not the oh.
And so I'm walking around and I was like, all right, good looks, thanks. And so I'm like going to go say bye to everyone, and I'm like showing everyone
with
my
the
phone.
Envelope.
Yeah,
that's hard. But that is the envelope, like, all right. But
the thing was,
hopefully I see y'all at the next year.
The thing was though, so as soon as I leave the office from getting fired, there's this one of my coworkers, she's sitting there like in the outside office right there, and she's like, everything okay? And I show her the thing, and she's like, oh no, is like everything okay? I'm like, everything's great. Like honestly, like I've been waiting for this to an extent. Like I was planning on doing this later, but this came at an earlier point in my time, like
on the timeline.
Exactly. Like this is just allowing me to focus on what I wanted to do. So fuck yeah, I'm excited. I was like, be happy for me, thank you. And so I went out and went to go say bye to everyone, and like told them the same thing. I was showing them, and I was like, yo guys, this is my golden ticket. I got my golden ticket. And like exactly, because I really saw it as like my opportunity to do what I kept telling myself that I was gonna do. And so it was like, time to fucking do it. And
nut up or shut up.
Yeah.
God told you, nut up or shut up then.
And the reason I'm so fucking nervous about this is because honestly, like I haven't even told my parents about this. So like this happened months ago. This happened.
They know you don't work there though, but
they know I don't work there. But the thing was, and this
hey, that's a cold one. Hey, I was with a girl, and it's just like, I'm gonna let you get back to it. Yeah. But I was with a girl for some months, and her parents thought she worked 2 jobs. Really, the other job, she was at home getting, like with me, getting her back broken. It was crazy.
She was going for a long time. No one knew she started working the job.
6 months. She, her parents are calling her. I swear to God, she'd be like, I'm over here working over here.
It's crazy how life go like that, bro. People will be hitting you, bro. Like I didn't see this like that at jobs where people parents be hitting the job, like, are they there? Like, you know?
What are you saying?
And it was exactly, but it was some shit because like my biggest fear with it was because like I knew that they were gonna try to push me to get a job like as soon as possible, and like I didn't have much of a plan as to what was going on, so like I couldn't really even enforce like my, like I have this passion for things, but I didn't really have like a way to like show like what I was gonna do at that time. And so I was like, I need to fucking take this opportunity to sit and think. And so like I mentioned that shit happened. I think I mentioned on one of the pods that like I had like a significant moment happen right before the Kanye concerts, but it was this was the moment. The day after I went to that same day actually I got this
the same day.
Well, you seen Ye in person?
I did. Well, actually, I've seen Ye a couple times, but beyond like just performances, like even like.
No, that's also a big reason why this dude could not quit that job. This motherfucker would be there all day.
Like I was like this,
but
like
you couldn't really talk to. Well, you could have, but that's the one regret I know you have, and like you even already expressed it to me that like if I was to go out. That's why I'm going out.
That was my point, dude. Especially
I'm going out trying to shoot my mixtape, something. Fire me like that. Don't fire me on some slick shit like behind everybody. Like
no. Exactly. Like I had such bigger plans for like how I wanted to go out, but then they did me like that, and I was like, motherfuckers, like all right, whatever.
Yeah, you didn't
like,
get a chance to do nothing like wild.
Because by the time I decided to be on my fuck it wave, I didn't get to see Ye again. And I wish I would have, because I had so much, like I already kind of crafted out like
Like how you would approach it if it came down
because
to
I had just been around him so much at a certain point that I was like, exactly, like you just go through shit in your head.
Yeah.
But beyond that, like that same day that I got fired, I was so pumped up. Like I was planning on getting this tattoo anyways, like the day or two after. But I got the same day it says "Que harán estas manos?" What will these hands do? And it was like on my shit of like really like reminding myself like what will these hands do? And it's on a paintbrush because it's like on my art like.
That's one of the realest nigga tattoos I ever heard in my life. My man said, "What would these hands do?"
Right, and every time he says it, I think about these hands.
I'm gonna tell niggas that for the rest of my life. Like I'm gonna tell people like, "Oh, you think you got hands, nigga?" I know a nigga with a tattoo that say, "What would these hands do?"
Yeah. Let you think about it. Real quick.
But on some real shit, it makes me think about it, and like it was something that I was reflecting myself, like really like telling myself like, what are these hands gonna do? And so like it was I didn't tell my parents because like I didn't know what these hands were gonna do, and like I had to figure that shit out, and it was like a trial of myself of like being like, all right, now it's time to dedicate my time into my shit, but I still had to like kind of play off as I was working. So like I was low-key just going to the library every day and just working there for hours on a whole bunch of different shit, trying different projects, different things here and there, seeing what was like best sparking. But like the thing that was the most like time consuming and also starting to get like the most like legs behind it was the podcast.
That's right.
And so it was kind of like starting to realize like, all right, we can now. I have, because a big part was like we spent the whole year recording the podcast, but I never really had time to edit the podcast, and this shit takes fucking time.
Yeah, it took us a whole year to record a lot of the episodes.
Exactly, like, and so like even then, before we had like the full editing, like we still had to fucking formulate like how the whole concept of like,
yeah, that was still coming together. Like we had parts of it, but it hadn't been like set in stone yet.
Exactly, you know what I mean? And so like there was all these things that still had to be put in place to like kind of get the ball rolling, and then even once the ball got rolling, like to continue it at the pace that we got it, and then once it being like, it took that kind of dedication, and beyond that time to focus on that, like I was able to work a lot. I made so much more like instrumentals and music than I've been able to in the past like 6-8 months when I was working there, because it was just too much time.
So it was somewhat like a fast experience.
Exactly, working there was like a fasting experience because it let me, I focused, it let
you build up that desire to just go all out.
And it wasn't I'm not going to describe it as like a negative experience at all, because
that allowed you to build up that desire, you know what I mean? Because it took up that time. But like it's kind of just like when something holds you back, you know, something's like holding you back from a fight, like or pressure itself. It was just holding you back, and you just went
exactly. And low-key even now, like it was like I've still been using it as a sense of like trials and tribulations with it, because it was a sense of like, can I dedicate myself to this, just this, not doing anything else? Like I've had literally no other job other than fucking working on music and podcasts for the past like 3 months now, and like I'm so glad I did it, even though like I've made no money from it at all. And it's like it's like from a financial standpoint, it's not looking good like on that end, but on like the happiness and like getting shit that I actually want to get done standpoint, it's looking so much better. And like even with this like now moving to New York, I feel so much more confident in being able to go there, because now like I know that I have no problem like when I'm giving the time to do whatever, like to literally dedicate myself to what I want to do.
That's right.
So it's like it was on that vein of like hitting those trials and being able to see like, can I withstand this? And once you go through it, I'm feeling a lot more confident about it now.
I feel that. For me, I feel like I had a somewhat opposite experience, where like I had a fast on working, or I was mostly working on music and creative shit outright, like during the time of the pod, because I was on unemployment, bro. And like I was in school before that, so like I kind of went on and just started to finish my school online and stayed on unemployment, because I was like, fuck it. Like, to be honest, school has been a hard fucking challenge for me, bro. And it's been one of those things a lot of people talk about in life, you know what I mean? Where it took me a while to find how it could apply to my musical career. A lot of times it was deeper. It was just family shit. You know what I mean? That's a lot of people struggle in life. But as you know, me struggling with that, it didn't really work for me on that tip until I started to learn how to like apply it towards my music shit. So then I started seeing more success with it. It was just kind of just the idea of like settling down and bunkering down with it. And at that time, I think I did a fast on music because I had to do a lot of school shit. And then bunkering down on that, it kind of wanted me to put that, like it forced me to pin back that energy, but then I had it because I'm still pushing it. And then I was like, once it was done, I just was able to like towards music. But then I didn't do much like on work, like that shit, that grind shit you talking about. And then that drove up my fire for that, which kind of happened in May. And it kind of like right around the time he got that job. And I feel like for me, it became this thing of like, in order to get to that point that he's talking about, I felt like I needed to work and reestablish my finances to be able to then make a move, to do another move.
Fair.
You know what I mean? Like I was in a certain position when I made that first move, and I was like, damn, if I could get to that position through working, I might not never have to do that again. So I feel like I had that experience then where I fasted myself from it, and then I was just like, damn, maybe like I was just like, fuck, I've always had that dilemma, like the work has really fucked me from doing this, because I've been wanting to do it since I was 16. So I've known that it was just always fucking me from doing it, like whether it was school or work, you know?
Yeah.
But then it took me realizing that maybe understanding that if I just bunker down in it for an extended period of time, it's like a hump. And then I can get over the hump as long as I don't stop the other thing. That was just my experience with it that I took a while to gas. Is that like, I was scared to just jump in it to begin with, to even look at it like that, because I felt like I wouldn't make it out of it for a while. Like just bunkering myself too much down into a grind. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be back into the creative shit. Like I don't know if I'm gonna, like I'm type to just be like, I'm gonna just go to sleep. And I started looking at myself like, damn, I'm doing all this other shit. You're not even doing what you want to do. So I was taking times to do that, but then I just got into the mindset of maybe, you know, locking in. For my personality type, I maybe need some type of structure, if you will. Like I like how you mentioned earlier that you're a Leo, right? And you're very like confident in self. And you also have seen my sign, and I thought that was interesting because, like, according to, if you do believe in that shit or whatever, those are like sister signs or whatever. Those are like homie ones. But I've always been some Leos I used to not get along with.
Yeah.
But because of what you described, the confident and boisterousness about it, I'm Aquarius, so sometimes I'm very reserved and to myself at times. But I think that was something that like I had to learn from other people that had those traits, that like getting out there in the world and experience shit is like almost my path, as well as to like adding the structure in my life that is needed to then apply it in other areas for me. Because I don't know if I got so much self-confidence and fire about myself that like I have it, but it just cultivates in a more just like low-key way. I feel like I have to focus it, but I use the experiences of like working hard in the other areas and shit like that to take it back to be like, bro, I mean, you had to do all this to accomplish this, that you could put it into this. You know what I'm saying? Like I just like use those little reminders, if you will, of just being like work can be applied in all different areas. And like I've kind of just been afraid of it my whole life, of using it for that. I've always just been like, nah, it's just separate. Like this is spiritual, this is natural. Like, but then I had to always keep reminding myself like, nah, everything takes a certain amount of like work and effort. And if you kind of could see that level in everything, you could just always use it.
Hell yeah.
That's some real shit, man. Fuck. Within that, I kind of want to talk about like the work and effort it goes into like making all the like auxiliary stuff when it comes to like the brand, like the rolling papers. That's some sick stuff. You were like one of the first people. Like
that's interesting to know. Like, how do you have the time to do all that outside music shit and work?
You have to set up these boundaries. Right, like sometimes, I mean, all this shit is like games to me. It's like a different video game. You're switching into a different bag. When it comes to the business side of things, that game is like Zelda. Or more specifically for my life, The Binding of Isaac, right? Because you defeat small bosses. And these might be in secret rooms. Like, these might be secret level, like, missions that you do. You can't even invite your friends if you wanted to. You might be on a secret mission, and sometimes we can all experience this. Excuse me. You want to check out this restaurant. So you finally get to that restaurant, you take a walk, and you try to call your friend while you're on the way there or while you're there, and nobody's picking up. You know what I mean? Like, nothing within your power can connect you to other people. This is for you right now. As you progress, you achieve motherfucking goals, but also you get some relics. You get some special moves. And so, with the business thing, it's more like, after you stack your money and things like that, you got to learn how to invest it. And first things first, you got to invest in what you know, wholeheartedly know. Right? My first business was when I was a kid. I was in 3rd grade tutoring other kids. All because one mom asked me to tutor her son. She'll give me $20 every day that I come tutor him and help him with his homework. Of course I'll do that. But then I started to think, I could tell other people. So I started making little posters and shit at home. I didn't have internet or cable or anything at home and shit like that. But I knew I wanted this motherfucking money. And also I knew that this is what I do. Like, this is me. People already want this, so I could sell this. Mm-hmm. And it didn't really go well, of course, you know. And so I learned to adapt. Like we were talking about earlier, you got to learn how to, like, put something down for a little bit, especially if it's a business. So going for what I know, it led me to shit like rolling papers. Because when I was 10, I had a shirt company. And that, I was just thinking it was going to be jokes. Playing video games. The jokes I would make online. Struggle jokes. Fuck that. Niggas learn how to design t-shirts. Learn how to screen print. Learn how to do the whole thing. I went on the train by myself. I was 10 years old. My mom, she was like, you want to do this, but I don't know how to help you. You know, like, I told her I have this money. I want to start a shirt company. And she's like, well, you have to go to LA. And she was telling me I have to go with my stepdad at the time. And I'm like, I'm not trying to go with him. Fuck him. So she's like, okay. Well, you got to catch the train all the way to LA. So as I'm catching the train, my stepdad calls me. He's like, I know you don't want me to help you and shit, but at least let me drop you off where you need to go. So I'm like, okay. So he called me from the train station, showed me where to go to the alleys, which isn't that far. Dropped me off in the middle of fucking LA, my first time ever in the alleys. And I went home on the train with 300 shirts. 3 big ass gilded boxes, just towered, just holding them. Happy as hell. Got them for cheap too.
Yeah, because out there, that's the spot, bro. For all the cheap tees. I remember going with my dad getting the socks in the pro clubs. They would just have them in bulk. That was the spot.
And I'm 10, so I don't have time to just dedicate a week to this or a day or a whole nothing to finish these shirts. But I got the damn shirts now. I had the money, then I got the shirts. So now the shirts is at my house. Now I'm asking around everybody, who do you know who makes shirts? Just so happened my friend at school, he's like, my cousin works at a shirt company. He makes them. I could ask him. I'm already proficient in Photoshop and shit. So I'm making my own screens and shit. And so we're learning. And it's not like I had extra time. It's that I deemed what was extra. I redefined extra to me. Right? I don't have extra time. Extra means some bullshit to me. Right? Like, extra, some free time just means I didn't necessarily plan accordingly. Because I can plan to have me time. I can plan to have a good time. And sometimes that can happen unexpectedly and plans change. But I'm still trying to stick to a plan. You know, I'm still trying to figure things out. I'm trying to go along a path. So really it's just like I don't have extra time. I just have times where I'm like, man, I smoke so many motherfucking papers. I need to come out with my own rolling papers. Just like that.
I know what you mean. Just trying to make all the time work. Like everything I do, everything I'm into, being like, this gotta work for me in some way.
In some way, for what I'm doing. And just straight up saying shit like that. And setting that as your goal. Right now, I have not eaten meat in 9 years. And that all came off of one day. I just literally had a bomb-ass salad. I put fruit in it. I put watermelon in the salad. Never had a salad in my life with fruit. Like my family, we didn't grow up eating shit like that. It was so good, it changed my life. I said, I could eat this the rest of my life. And I said it with such certainty, alone in my room, that it changed my life. I said, oh, well, let's see how long it goes. And it's been 9 years now, but I just told myself that. It's not to save animals or do anything, not knocking anybody's thing, but it's just for me personally. It's just, I told myself that I wouldn't. So, I mean, some people might, that's an extreme, you know what I mean? Not everybody doesn't have to be extreme like that. I'm just an extremist in my ways, in the way that, like, if it's gonna be for the betterment of me, if it's gonna, like, help me achieve whatever goal, like the not eating meat thing, it's not a necessary goal. That thing is just like a constant, like, it doesn't give me XP, it doesn't give me an item, it doesn't give me a special move, but what it gives me is sanity, and that helps in a whole different meter that I need, you know. So like I'm just figuring out those things.
I really relate to what you said on the idea of time, of not having extra time. I feel like that's something I've been, as of late, I haven't had, and I've been telling Mauricio that a lot, that like, even the times when I'm doing shit, I don't even feel like I have time to do that shit. Like, I feel like everything I'm planning is just like slots, and I'm just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm not working on this, then I'm working on that, and it's some shit that could be in this plan that's already lined up to be in it. It's just like, I don't even got time for the shit I'm doing now. I just think that I just want to make this time useful. You know what I'm saying? And I've been finding myself in that a lot lately, where it's like, it ain't even like I designated time to do this right now. It's just like, I'm not gonna do nothing right now, so I'd rather try and do something.
It's the best way to keep yourself busy. I feel like that's been a large part of, in the past like 3 months when I was starting to get on this, or starting to like focus mostly on like my own thing. It was a lot of like realizing of, well, how can I allocate my time, and in that vein of like always trying to keep it busy, always trying to keep it something going on, because like there's like a million things that need to go on, and like especially like for the plans that I have and like the things that I want to get across, like the shit just takes fucking time, and like the prioritization of it is beyond important. And like I literally find myself it's to the point where now I get angry at myself sometimes. Like you're saying, like plans change and it's important to have me time, and like I try to have it like in the moments like you said where it's deemed necessary. But sometimes when I feel like I'm having too much me time, or like when it gets up, when I get angry at myself, I'm like, I shouldn't have me time. Or like you said, there is no such thing as free time, and I guess that's where it kind of like,
there's more like extra.
Yeah,
time.
You could have some free time. You can tell yourself, like, this time is for nothing. I'm not doing a damn thing. I don't care who hits my phone. I don't care even if my ambitions tell me I'm about to, like, oh, I could do this. I got money in my pocket. Or
I feel like that's like more intentional. I'm saying more like sometimes when it veers, like, you know what I'm saying, like plans change, and
you can set it to that though. I guess what I'm getting at, like where the plans could change, and you could set that as your free time. Like you didn't plan it on being free time. You know what I'm saying? But then like,
but I'm gonna have some free time now then.
Yeah, and I'm definitely on that wave where it's like, I'm definitely not prioritizing that over the other shit. But if like I couldn't do the shit that I wanted to do, then I'm definitely gonna throw free time in there if I end up with a window for it.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. I'm like, intentional free time, that's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah, intentional is different.
I call that me time. Like that's what I was saying. Like the distinction, like where I see the free time is more like when it transitions beyond that, in the sense of like when it's that moment of like you're doing something, and then there's that little extra moment of time, if you want to consider it that like where things kind of go a little bit longer, and it's just like, even if it's doing nothing, and it's like, well, that doing nothing, like then I find myself kicking myself like a lot lately of being like, why am I doing this? Like, I know I have a lot of shit I need to be working on.
Yeah, it's like you don't have no extra just spare time. The same thing we're talking about, to just not work on something.
Exactly.
Where it's like there's something that you could work on, in a moment.
Exactly. Like, I always feel like there's always something that I feel like I could be working on. So anytime I find myself veering too much into the free time zone, that I'm like, well, shit, like, you're doing this instead of getting this other idea. Like,
I think I have a constant fight with the
sometimes.
whole, like, how do you say, I guess the planned free time, because I get in a fight with how much it's needed. Like, I have that same feeling of, like, I'll think about it and I'll plan it, and then I'll second guess myself, and then I'll be like, damn, like, do I deserve this? Like, should I be doing this? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but then I have the second voice that's like, well, nah, like, sometimes you just set that time, and that time, like you said, where you just have your phone off, like, people not, like, it almost rejuvenates you. And it's like, I have the dual fight in myself to try to fight to have that moment, even in times when I'm like, I get in fights with other people over this, like family and shit like that, where I'm like, sometimes you may not be where exactly you want to be, but you need to kind of secure those moments as well mentally to maneuver past the next point in life almost. Because I don't know if me moving 100 miles an hour, I'll get to my goal. I think I might crash. I've always looked at it like that.
And that, I have this quote that, like, me and my father always, like, say, and ambition be the death of all great men. You can do great shit. I mean, you could be the most talented motherfucker in the world, but you let that shit get the hold of you, you'll work yourself to skin and bone and death. But
facts, I could always work harder, but exactly, like, if I lose the side of myself that wants to take a break at all, I don't know if I'll survive past that.
And you gotta feed that sensation, like that sensation to treat oneself. I do it all the time. Like, say, and I fight myself about that shit all the time. I'll go to a restaurant, right? Like, growing up, I never had, like, no one ever got me a combo meal. You guys have had Rhythm on your podcast. It wasn't until me and him lived together, I moved to Van Nuys, and we went to Wendy's, and he was like, what do you want? And I'm like, oh, like, shit, I'm ordering off the dollar menu, like I have always my whole fucking life. And he's like, dude, like, we have money now, and niggas been having money, but it wasn't until then he was just like, he's like, nah, like, you can get fries and a drink with your shit. And it was just like, okay, I need to reframe the way I even go to fucking restaurants. I need to reframe the way I even, like, think about who I am.
Yeah, I that's exactly what I'm getting at. Like I'm talking about, like, a trip to Mexico that I'm gonna go to recently, and I'm beating myself up, like, do I really, like, I've never done that. Am I the type of person that goes on trips?
But you deserve it.
But I'm like, maybe you grow into the person that goes on trips. You know what I mean? Like, you work harder, you do different shit as you get older. Like, it's just that battle within your life, of being like, maybe when you were young, this was just some shit that was completely foreign to you, that you were just like, nah, like, I'm not supposed to fucking be traveling. But then maybe you get older and you're like, damn, like, I could afford to travel once a year. Like, it won't kill you.
I think, like, a big part of what you guys said is just, like, being exposed to it. Just, like, however we are, like, as children when we grow up, like, whatever we're exposed to is what we see. So, like, as we grow older, we have to, like, recondition ourselves to, like, what is the other opportunities, and, like, seeing, like, what else even exists out there.
I deserve guacamole on that.
Yeah. And it's with that, and I see where you're coming at it with as well, of, like, that's like seeing
of just, like, should I hold myself to this level until I get there? Like, should I just be like, or should I gradually level up? Like, how should I go about it? Like,
and I feel like a big part of it, like you said, is, like, you have to do it, because, I mean, if you didn't, I feel like that's like what makes life worth living, is those me times. You know what I mean? Those times that you dedicate to things that you wanna do. And that's what I was saying. I don't knock me time, because actually I give it a lot of importance. I feel like, in that sense of, like, when I feel like it's, and that's, like, a big part of why I like festivals and, like, things like that, is because it's, like, planned me time. That's what I was saying. Like, those are times when, like, I'm like, all right, I know that this is me going to this for that.
Even in that, I have somewhat of a fight, but I feel you it's much less of a fight because of my direct connection to the musical experience.
Exactly, and because
so I'm much more like inclined to be like, oh, I get something out of this. I see what you're saying.
Exactly.
Like, but it's the same thing where like we both have those conversations where we want to go. You know what I mean? Because you're an artist.
There's other
That's
stuff
a big
going
thing.
on.
Artists have a lot of conversations like like I've met other artists that have opinions on that, where they feel like they don't want to go. Like they got their 30-day grind on that or year grind on that, where like I'm not gonna go to no shows until I do this many shows.
And I respect that as well, and I get it, like because it's like a way of training yourself to that. You know, it's a way of self-discipline, and like even like I remember like when we were having the conversation about like the freestyling stuff, like freestyling versus written stuff, like I think it's like important. Like I have nothing but respect for like people that have like the ability to self-discipline in certain ways to sharpen like a skill like that. You know what I mean? Because that's a way to achieve something. You know what I mean? Without a doubt. When in that conversation though, I just wanted to like utilize the fact that like some things aren't mutually like exclusive, and then like there's just like with music, like there's a lot of things that are just tools, right? And so you can use them in different tools aspect. So it wasn't like too much in the sense of like one can't be done with the other, but I'm saying like the way you use the tool,
using it the right way.
Exactly, using it the right way, or even taking the time to learn another tool, because that's another tool in your toolbox. That's what I was trying to get at with it, is that there's so many different ways to it. Like going off to learn like another part of it is essential, and like that kind of comes also with these life experiences in these me times, is like you know how we say like you can only write on what you experience, right? Yeah. So like if you're not going out and experiencing and living life, then what are you going to write about?
Cutting that little valve off could affect your creatively and your creative and artistic expression, because really like it has opened me up a little bit, you know what I mean? Just incorporating it in general. Like think about the time from when I only went to Hawaii once when I was like a little ass kid on some lucky shit. I went like at 6, and then I went recently right before I started this job, because I was on unemployment. I had to get a job, but I was out there on my like manifest tip. Like I was like, all right, I'm gonna go on vacation, and when I come back,
West move.
You know, I was like, when I come back, I'm gonna get a job. You know what I mean? Like I was like, I know I'm about to get a job. Like I'm gonna put all my energy into that and make music. But I was like, right now, I should go on this trip, make music. You know what I mean? Really try to soak it up in the moment, and then come back and do what I gotta do. Some of it panned out, some of it ain't panned out. But I feel like a big benefit in it though was that like I did when quickly after that maneuver to the job, and it did go in some sense how I wanted to go. But I feel like thinking about from that time to now, you know what I'm saying? Like that was May, we about to be in May. I feel like a lot fucking happened from that time to now. You know what I'm saying? Like as far as just all the shit we put in motion. And we prophesized, you know what I mean? We was thinking about different shit, we was plotting different shit. A lot of shit was kind of just like undisclosed. It was just like, we finna do this, but we don't know what. We released our last shit, you know what I mean? But it was kind of like that was right after. Yeah, no, it was actually a good amount of time had went out since TC, you know, our last shit.
It had been like at least probably like 7 months, I think, at that point.
You know what I'm saying? So it was just kind of like, I just feel like all in all, from that point of like recently last traveling to now, I think my perspective like shifted and sped up, like dipping out of, you know, just seeing the world and whatever I was in at the time, and COVID at the time. You know what I mean? COVID was popping, so that was a big factor in all of it. But you know what I'm saying?
Popping.
It was from COVID to like, yeah, that was the time when it was at this height, bro. Like, so thinking about that, like from summer and to now, actually that's some wild shit, because I didn't add that factor into it. Like that was probably a big reason why we started the pod with masks and shit. First couple, everybody was masked up.
It's crazy to see how that's transitioned. How's the past 7 months, or
how's that transition been for you? Shit, the COVID to as an artist.
Yo, for me,
like how was it post before? Do you have anything you're about to drop before when it hit? Like any plans in motion?
Oh, for sure. Like right before COVID hit, I dropped Like Me. And shit was going. Like, it was my first time ever seeing thousands of plays within the first month of a song release. So I'm like, man, shit, I'm about to drop an album. I'm like, I just need to learn how to, well, not learn how to, but who's in my city or who's around me, who can I reach out to and get videos. I was still learning at the time, 2019, how to network like that. Because I was in my hometown living off of just my businesses. I wasn't working a job for a while.
You already had the rolling company?
No, none of that. Like, I had
the t-shirt company still rocking?
All types of different, not even that. Like, just different businesses and things that I could live off of to this day. Excuse me. And so I'm just living off of these businesses, and then much like what you were saying about the whole New York thing, I didn't tell my parents or anything I was about to dip or nothing. Everyone knew that I was in the city, but no one really saw me every day. I'm living in my own houses and shit. Man, I just grabbed $2,000 and came to California. And I'm like, what am I doing out here? What am I even gonna do? I was just, like, my grandfather had just died in October of 2019. So I'm just like, I'm trying to make a move. I'm trying to do something. And so how can I hit this is really as hard as I can. And so right when COVID hit, I was a caregiver. And I was a caregiver for like 2 years, right? So now I'm at people's houses and I'm helping people from birth to death that are developmentally disabled in different ways and shit. And so what am I going to do with this time? Am I going to sit right away? Am I going to gossip, just hit social media like most caregivers and things do? Am I going to watch TV? Am I going to watch the sun, you know what I'm saying? Am I going to text people and just like fall in love with different people that I'll never really be able to see like that? Because one thing about caregiving, you're working hours, you know what I mean? You're working the set 8 hours, that's a fact. But also, you gotta wait for somebody to show up every day to relieve you. And it's not like they're late. It's like some days they're early. Shit, bro, I showed up. Like, we're here. It's only 3 of us for a day for this client. I see you every day on the day. So, it's a lot of leeway. And some days if someone calls off, now you're working 16. Just like that, you're working the 16 and you gotta come tomorrow or things like that. And the money's amazing, but it's also like I'm wasting away here. I'm literally here. I'm helping others, providing a service where they can live their life, but also I'm losing mine a little bit.
Yeah, because your life is dedicated to their life.
I can't eat what I want every day or go places or do things like everyone else because I'm not necessarily on a set work schedule. Like, yeah, I might have 8 hours, but it might end up being 10. It might be 12. It might be 16. Fuck. And then I'm ordering all the Uber Eats all the time. But I was already doing that in Indiana.
That's what I was curious to know where you were living before you got here.
In Indiana, in my hometown, South Bend, Indiana. And we get 4 seasons there.
Oh, shit. That's what that line is from. I didn't understand that because I've never been to Indiana. But yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, I remember hearing that you had the South Bend Blues. That makes sense.
And so it's like, motherfucking, I'm already in that mindset. I don't drive. I'm Ubering everywhere. I've been doing that since I was not skateboarding everywhere. That's just a fact. That's around like when Uber came out, another beta tester moment where I'm like,
damn, you was in the early Ubers?
Bruh, I was catching Ubers before I was supposed to, but they didn't have an age limit at the time. As long as you weren't disrespectful and shit, you was chilling. But I have like 4 or 5 banned Uber profiles because I was underage. And motherfuckers was like, yo, like a little 16-year-old kid is like ordering these Ubers, coming in smelling like weed. He might have liquor. He might have all types of, like, I mean, come on. I was doing reckless shit at the time. And so with the whole, what were we just talking about? My bad. Because I started talking about Ubers.
Indiana, and you were also talking about coming to here.
And so, like, once quarantine shit hit,
quarantine, you were saying you just came. Yeah.
Having to, like, eat all the time from Uber Eats and, like, order that. Because that's how I'm eating. If I'm going to eat throughout the day, I'm gonna eat Uber Eats or something like that. That was like a shared experience that I felt with the world. And if I'm going to the grocery store, it's for my clients or shit like that. And if I'm barely in there, it's like it's fucking
So did
tragic.
you feel like maybe that had an effect on your, say, like the way, like as an artist, you express your interpretation of the world because the world changed and your interaction with the world changed, or you was more so writing about your own experience still?
I think that's what it is. Like, we're supposed to be writing about what we're going through.
I got you.
And sometimes you can write, like, especially as a singer-songwriter myself, I know sometimes I might write from other people's perspective. I want someone else to sing this song or rap this or whatever the case is. But it's like, nah, like, if the whole world slowed down, what really changed in my life? And I feel like I want a lot of people to think about that through quarantine. Everyone's looked at it from a glass half empty viewpoint. But for me, I know. No, okay, before COVID, I was in Indiana.
Yeah.
Snowed in. It gets like 20 below for months straight. I'm still Ubering everywhere I want to go. There's barely any fucking Ubers, just like with COVID, right?
Yeah.
If I want some food and it's snowed in, or maybe you live in like a more like rural spot, maybe you live in the country, maybe you live in the mountains, you're either gonna have to go to the store or make that shit.
Gotcha.
You're in a situation, you're in your current situation. COVID, it changed a few things as far as accessibility and opportunities. But I can't live my whole life, or at least the last 2 years, from a perspective of saying, but what about all the other shit I could have done? Like, yeah, I could have done all types of shit way before even COVID. Shit that I'm getting into now, it wasn't until I had that time to myself.
Some sense, it made people more resourceful, too. That's what you're saying. Like, that's like a deeper sense to it, that we're like a lot of... We grew in ways we didn't know we would have to grow in, and those ways are sometimes what people neglect to look at, like how they had to grow in those times because of the the alternate factors, because you were forced to.
Facts are facts. And I was gonna say, like, in thinking about it in that light, when you were talking about it, like, COVID was really great.
In that sense, yeah.
Like, beyond like the negative effects.
I didn't think about it like that. like the time I got to myself and
Exactly,
like to do different shit like that. Like, bro, hell yeah, bro. Like, I started running like a motherfucker way more than I was supposed to. Like, not supposed to, but like way more than I had time to originally.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my physical health, like,
you learn how to make time.
I was like diving into it. Yeah. And it was like so much more time in the day to do everything. Like, I was watching shit. That's how I ended up on Clubhouse. I was fucking going on watching verses and shit. Like, what the, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it was literally like I had time to do that and do other shit. Like, but it was just because the world itself, that slowdown, added like a zoom out on my particular day to day, because your day to day is usually kind of colluded with all these worldly things. You know what I'm saying? Like, shit you want to go buy, shit you want to go cop from this.
But COVID ain't stopped the people with real money and influence and shit from doing nothing. They've been doing it the whole time through COVID, right?
Yeah.
But it stopped the normal layman, you know what I'm saying? It stopped a normal motherfucker, like in that aspect of like billionaire, millionaire shit, like people like us.
Yeah,
it stopped us from being able to go out.
That was the real shit I definitely seen. Like, like, never seen that until, like, just in the world, like, where it would be like, people, they were talking about quarantining and shit like that. People would be like, but like, bro, it's like a fucking world you have over there. Like, it's not really quarantining.
But they're still lit.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they're still, and because of that money, power, that influence and things, they bar ain't closed. They club never closed. They whatever it was, that shit never closed. The function never stopped. You know what I mean? So like,
that makes sense.
They was like defining their own quarantine in their way, where it's like, nah, like, my industry could die right now. Like a lot of restaurants. I have videos on this on like my page about like indie spotlights, whether it be artists and businesses and shit like that. I'm a huge person in my community. That's what I do. That's how I started before I ever fucking did a show.
Didn't you throw events?
Hell yeah.
I want to know
I threw
about
events,
that.
trash cleaning up events, motherfucking feeding the homeless events.
I think when you followed me, it was from an account that was like an event shit.
Yeah,
like when we met.
Cause that's
And
what
it was literally
I do.
like I didn't know if it was you, but I was just like I seen it and I was like, well, this is what he followed me. Like this is him.
This
you know
is what I
mean?
do.
Like,
Community, like, you know what I'm saying, like real life community, real life, like, nah, cause I come from Panthers, I come from real freedom fighters, I come from Seminole people, so for me it's more like I don't have a choice. I don't think most people have a choice to be an outstanding member in their current outreach. It might be 5 motherfuckers, it might be 2 people, it might be your mama, your daddy, but it's like I don't think no one has that option just cause like say like your beautiful dog Shadow don't got an option. Shadow off of like just life is going to protect and honor that like agreement y'all have with one another, the human animal pact. This is like, I'm not really gonna come at you because I'm not a feral animal, and if it is a feral animal, they're still respecting their pact with us as saying I'm a fucking animal. It's not like they're doing it personal. I hate humans, like I hate you. It's more like it's a fucking random animal, you know what I mean? It's not actually like thinking that this is a human. 9 times out of 10 it's scared, you know, so it's just lashing out on you in different ways or whatever.
I'm curious to know, because you mentioned something like almost in regards to like when we don't have a choice. That stuck out to me because oftentimes like I feel I speak on that in regards of like how do you feel about like when you're making music, the idea of like channeling, and like sometimes the shit I feel like is like coming through you, like it's not like sometimes
It ain't you.
Yeah, and I hold that really near to my heart. Like I feel like that like that shit you talked about, like the Panthers, like in my family a lot of times there's like a spirit and an energy that like, you know, that runs through us, and I resonated it in the way that like, say how you know a lot of people, right? And that's how I would think about, like my dad would talk about that, how he maneuvered a lot of things in his life through the relationships he had, and he would always, one thing he always tell me, he'd be like, in a serious tone, he'd be like, I got love. And that's how he would say it, like a lot of different places, like I got love in a lot of different places. And it was kind of to say that like that has power to it. And the idea that like I almost felt like I like having that, I didn't have a choice but to kind of use it in a way. And I get what you're saying, like certain people have this intrinsic feeling where it's like you got to use these things, like I have to galvanize and stand up for shit, because people, like not everyone is gonna do that or speak up for the perspective that other people are gonna be like, yo, I've been waiting for someone to fucking speak up for that perspective and shit like that, you know what I'm saying? Because we all have unique perspectives and shit like that, and deeper than that, I think a lot of times it comes from other places within us, like, you know what I'm saying, like our ancestors and shit channel that shit through, if you will. I feel like sometimes when we get in these certain zones, it's like I don't know where that shit's coming from, but it just start coming, and I feel like that's what I'm meant to do.
Yeah, I'm definitely a huge, and it might seem silly to some, because like I'm huge on religion, right? But I'm also huge on science. But I'm also huge on motherfucking faith-based beliefs, like magic and like superpowers and shit like that. Like I'm huge on that. Like although it may sound silly to other people and things like that, like I'm like, nah. Like when it comes to creativity and making this art and shit, I can never recreate the magic from a session. I can never recreate how I express myself that one time. It might like say like I'm spitting and I spit like a cold ass song, and I might like be running through that bitch. And my engineer, everybody's in there like, man, this shit's dope. And I'm like, okay, let's scrap that and let's do it like we're supposed to now. Okay, like let's go in there, let me punch in what I'm supposed to punch in, let me do certain lines until I get that word fucking right. Or like, let's just scrap the second half, like whatever the fuck I have to do to make this shit sound exactly how I need it to, and what I'm defining, like what it needs to be. So it's like, I need all types of magical elements. I need all types of motherfucking experiences. And that comes through, especially for me, documentaries, books, some good shows, but mainly anime. You know what I mean? Like anime is just so many vast stories where it's like, this shit don't got none of it. niggas is getting shot outside of my house and shit, and I'm watching a show about motherfuckers who can punch so hard that, like, a dude, like, he won't die, but he will definitely be, like, fucked up for the rest of his life, or whatever the case is. It's like, I'm watching this because it's showing me different character development and different paths and shit, where it's like, okay, like, other people are going through different trials and tribulations, and everybody draws to different, like, veins of inspiration in that way. But for me, it really has to be some magical shit. It has to be like somebody who overcame some shit that I could see myself in the shoes. I'm a very visual person. So as I'm hearing, as I'm watching something, I'm seeing a whole nother story in my mind. You know what I mean? Like, you ever watch a movie and you're like, fuck, like, it's like I'm in that movie. Like, or you finally go to a city, or you're walking somewhere just random. You're out on a date. You're out with a friend, anything. They leave for a second, go to the restroom or something. Now you're on this beach by yourself, and it just reminds you of this movie scene, or just like this moment, and you're like, damn, like, now I'm in that game. I'm in that movie. I'm in this moment right now. And it's
I've
like
definitely
that
been
magic.
in City of God a few times.
That's real.
I've definitely
that's
been,
real.
Definitely, like, there's a specific beach.
Or Shatas.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been in that movie a couple times where it's like you can hear the
That's crazy. I know what you mean though on that tip, like where it's just like, it's for me, it's like this is Beach Point Doom. Shout out to we're also a band called Point Doom, it's homies, but we fucking there. It's like a way you climb across these rocks and you only see the rock and the beach. And like at times it just looks like those scenes when they like snuck off and shit in Brazil to the beach and it was just them. And it's just kind of like every time I'm there, I reminisce on that, where it just makes you think of that. Like, I see what you're saying. Like, character, I feel like development in shows, sometimes in fantasy, is sometimes the same idea and depth that it takes to just that people look at the lens of life with. You know what I'm saying? When they talk about how, like, manifesting and the idea of fucking, like, what you could do. Because a lot of times, we talked about this before, those shits, they put themes in those things for like a reason, because those themes apply to their life and how they even got to being successful into what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes the story or the arc of the guy be related to this fool's real life, like a underlying, you know what I mean, like, factor, and we don't even see those connections within it. This shit's still good.
Yeah.
Oh. You looked at it real serious.
Sorry.
You look at it with the young thug look. He was like,
he had to check the time because he like, shit, this nigga class didn't change the fucking podcast.
Not at all. It's just because messages pop up in this corner sometimes, and I hate it. But like, I saw one and it was from my mom, and so I just had to look in real quick to see what.
She was like, y'all getting a little too wild out there to start talking about all of this manifestation and magic and shit. The neighbors, that's where they'll draw the line. Like, everything else we were talking about, cool. Once we get to the spiritual shit,
I'm like, bro, we've talked about so much more red flag shit in here. Imagine this is the one where the neighbors were just like, hey, yo, knock on your door, like, could we just, like, turn this off? That would be, I feel like, cool. But shit, going back to fucking music. I had a question.
Very good.
Well, not a question, but topic. I mean, I was interested in knowing how the fuck do you plan on, or do you go about releasing albums or singles, or what are your thoughts on that? Like, album projects versus singles and shit like that in this wave right now. Not on like some new shit, but I think that's like, I've had varied answers from everybody on this topic. Where some people want to craft out their debut shit. Some people want to fucking be like, you know, drop singles until they get to like later on. Do you have some debut shit you've always worked on? Or do you got like old songs you say? I know you might have old songs you say, but I'm saying, you got like a debut album you've always theme or anything like that you like have had in your mind for a while? Or is that some shit you keep in a working tank?
For me, and I've always been like this. Till I came up with Arcade, like, before, like, now I use BeatStars, right? It's one of the best tools I've ever had in my life, because whenever I want to watch a show, I want to do anything. I mean, most of the time I want to listen to music in my life. Most of the time I want to listen to my shit now, because I'm at that level where I'm producing that much music, where it's always so much, like, something so different. And that's only possible through some shit like BeatStars. Before it was like SoundCloud. There was a good moment where SoundCloud was beats. Like, people forget where it's like you could meet real producers. Like, you could really meet motherfuckers before they were it. Like, it was nuts.
I would actually hit them up. Like, I would have to hit them up and be like, I'm using your beat. Like, what's up with this?
And they'd be cool with it and shit. Because it's like, it's like they're like, I sampled this like famous ass song. So it's not like I could ever make money from it or whatever. It's like, you're cool, bro. And you're just like, damn, this is nuts. Like, and so like, I think for me,
BeatStars is a path to that somehow?
because before I would reach out to the producers, like, I produce as well. I started on FL as a kid, moved up. Now I'm an Ableton user. No ID gave me Ableton in 2015. Nuts. Shout out No ID.
That's hard. We also use Ableton. Like, we record our first album ever was Pro Tools, but since then it's been Ableton all the way.
Because it expands the mind in a different way. And so, because every day I want to make songs, every day I'm always hearing beats, I'm always hearing something. If it's not my music, it's something that might be my music. It might be my song, or it's just a beat that I'm just listening to. So I'm always listening to instrumental. Some shit that I could actually realistically grab, purchase right then and there. If I'm listening to it, it might just come on while I'm working out, at work, or anything, like shit, anything, taking a shit, anything, in the shower, and I can stop, say that beat. If I turn that real doodle into a real idea, I could like prosper from that. So I think music has changed, and this is the future of music. I want to go on record to say it, and I'm glad that I'm here to say like a lot of things, you know, to be with y'all. But it isn't a game of album or single or feature run right now or press run. Nah, the game is evolve to what you got, but always prepare for something else. So that means, like, realistically, if you're putting your own money into every fucking song, realistically, with a lot more money, you'll be able to push that song a lot further. If that's the game we're presented, which it is right now, maybe instead of focusing as many darts as possible, learn how to hit at least one target first in one way. You can keep testing it in different ways, like ads with like little ads. I do like $3 ads whenever I'm testing something out. One that hits, okay, now let me invest $200 into that fucking ad and watch what it do. Right? And so with the whole album single thing, especially for me now, it's like, nah, every day I'm making fucking music. Every day. I just finished 2 songs today, and that's not no bragging shit. It might not be the one, they might not be the one, but as long as I'm filling up my Gatling gun, personally making every fucking bullet, you know what I mean?
It's almost like honing your talent.
Everyone
it's
got
the
a
game
thing
right now.
And that's the game. It's like you could be like a young thug and you could be like, okay, let me try to put out this new single, and maybe they fuck with it, and maybe they do, and if they do, it's like, little do y'all know, I have a whole album ready.
Yeah, like, I've honed this sound.
I have 5-6 albums right now done, ready. My management, my team, they fuck with my catalog, and that's why they're always like, well, just keep going then. Because if I'm doing shit like this now, and that gives them things to work with, that's how you setting up the catalog. You need to give people, like, throughout the journey in the game, things to work with. And
that's a deeper topic right there. Like, if you do got a team, which we talk about a lot of times, like the work into getting a team, giving them things to work. Like, that process right there continues to give them things to work while you're working on other shit. It's just like, it's shit for you to continually get excited and come with ideas about.
Because they can't wait for you. Like, this shit, especially if this is your profession, it's your career, can't nobody wait on nobody else. Like, imagine if you went to work one day and they're like, yo, right now, I can't really figure out the restaurant game. I can't really figure out this entertainment game right now. So I'm going to take a break. Nobody's going to get paid for the next, like, month. I just got to figure some shit out. Yeah, motherfuckers would get sued, and it wouldn't be a real job. You know what I mean? And so in the same way with our music, this shit is a career. So other people can't really help you unless there's like a certain level of consistency with it. So it's like, if you are dropping albums, because the mixtape era, excuse me, came about because somebody started doing it. Somebody started doing all this TikToks like snippet thing, just like we were doing Vine snippets, just like niggas was doing Triller and still doing Triller snippets and all types of snippets and shit like that. But it's up to you to just be like, all right, I gotta test the waters in some way, and I just gotta dive in there. If I'm gonna drop an album, I'll drop the album, but I can't feel like have a plan. Like we were talking about, you can't like release an album because you just finished it last week. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna drop this album. By the time you finish the album, you should already be halfway done with the next one, on a whole nother vibe.
Yeah, and that's usually how it goes when the best shit comes out. Like you finish it, you already on to the next shit when it's getting wrapped up. You know what I mean? Because you've had it, you've had the fire ones from it that already are gonna be something. You've been working with those are gonna be into a concept. You know what I mean? Like you've been throwing it, spitballing it around at this point to so much point that like you already started creating some new shit, and now that one you don't even listen to it that much. You just look at it in the what it's about to be sense.
And it could still be some dope shit. And that's how I be feeling about it, like a lot of songs. Like, and sometimes say like Water 7, or no, fuck Water 7, We Be COVID. Like that was a whole album that I got COVID probably 4 times during this whole thing.
Damn.
And the second time, my mom's got it, my brother got it, my sister got it. We weren't even all living in the same house, but everybody got COVID. And I'm working, like I said, heavy at the time. So I can't even go back to work. I'm a caregiver. I can't go back to work. There wasn't like a 2-week window at the time. It was more like, come back when you really feel better, and then we're going to test you and do that. And then we're going to have to wait to see if, like, after your results and shit come, if somebody can say you can come back to work. So I got a hotel for like 4 days. BeatStars, bought all these beats. And sick as fuck, recorded the whole We Be COVID, engineered it. And I engineered the whole thing, everything. And I'm like, I'm going to release this right when I feel better. Like right when I'm not sick, that's when it's coming out. So I had to kind of plan around that. Shout out to DistroKid being able to be like, I mean, shit, it'll be up on YouTube tonight if you need it to. But Spotify and everything else, I mean, whenever they put it up, and usually Spotify, if you put something up tonight and you want it to be uploaded to Spotify tonight, usually Spotify will put that shit up within the next 3 business days. It'll be random when they do it, but it'll be like 3 business days. A lot of people don't know that. Like, but if you plan a release, you want to do it in a couple weeks. But if you just put it up and you tell them to post it, they'll randomly post it in like 3 days.
You don't know when it's really gonna drop.
And they'll just drop it. That's not like a release strategy. That's not good. Yeah. But also it's like I was in my album mode. I was in my album bag, and I'm like, yeah. Until one of my favorite songs off of that whole project is the last song. The last song is called The Train Song. I wrote that song in 2017, and it's about me catching a train 3 hours every day to get to work, 3 hours every day to get back. Like, cause I worked in Venice and I lived in Long Beach. Nuts as fuck, but it was worth the bread. Every day a nigga worked, and also still going to high school and figuring things out. So I'm like really like just like going through it, and that fit perfect for COVID. I feel like that was a song that I wanted everyone to hear for COVID, and no one knows that song as far as my discog, right? And that's okay. As an artist, I can take the L, but also say that's not an L. This is gonna forever be one of my songs. I could re-release, but I don't want to re-release because I want it to be a part of that project and in that moment, you know, and hopefully in the future people come back to it. But also it's like, nah, if I want to avoid that, people missing a song, I gotta learn how to get these singles right. I gotta learn how to like deliver a single. And if I wanted that to be the single, I should have made that the single, or whatever the case was. And if I'm going to do albums, I need to learn the power of releasing singles and like all of that. You know what I mean?
100%. I feel it. It's deep. I feel like there was a lot of really deep gems like within there. 2 things I wanted to touch on was like, one is like how you said like you planned to put it out like when you finally got better after COVID, and it was I feel like that planning process, and I feel like that's something that kind of comes with like an album, like you said, like while you can just kind of put something up and out, like if that's like what you want to do, I guess that you know, like that's a thing to do, but like within certain plans. And it's cool to see like an artist such as yourself that's like willing to stick so much to a plan, to be able to vault like as much albums as you have, to keep it at, like just sitting until the point where you feel that it's ready, because it's about like your vision, your plan for it, you know what I mean? And it's like that's a discipline that I feel like not a lot of artists have, because there's a certain need sometimes to want to get something out immediately, get something out hot, get something out that, which I get that perspective to it as well, but like there's also certain like discipline that goes with that kind of long-term plan for like a certain thing of being like, sometimes it just has to let it sit and simmer, you know what I mean, until you feel it's ready to go.
Because you gotta know if it is that much, like if that shit is that powerful, and that comes like into knowing yourself as the artist, right? Like overall, like if this is a video game, because when it comes to being an artist, that's when you're playing 2K, you playing fucking, you know, Madden, you're playing FIFA. So it's like, what's your overall? Don't fucking fool this. Don't try to rig the system. I know when I started, my overall was a solid 55. I'm not gonna play with you. The only thing I had going for me was charisma.
Do you care whether you live or die?
Another thing,
that's real though. I feel like it is on some, like, how do you say, like your overall, like as your, and I think that's a lot of what I talk about. Like, I had a big talk about the other day in the stew, as far as just like my overall, where like at certain times I feel really confident in other areas, but then certain other areas I'm like, nah, I gotta up my 3-pointers.
Yeah.
And remember you even echoing that sentiment of like, it's always good to just, you feel me, practice it up hand, like build up another skill. Like you never could go wrong in that area. Because
a lot of people, they think they got that. Like you might think like, oh, this song is going to go, like this one's going to be the one, and it might not happen sometimes. And it's like, okay, realistically, look at what you have. Right? Like I was growing up in like a very impoverished and different dangerous spot. So I akin it to the dope game in the way where it's like, if you selling bunk weed, you can't expect this shit to sell out. There's no way this is about to sell out. Like you're selling bunk. But if you know the game enough, you can still sell this bunk. You just need to know a way to figure out. And some people might use like brownies in different ways and shit like that, right? It's just a different way of packaging that bunk until it's good enough. How can I get my packaging right? How can I get the way that I'm putting it out right? And it's like, is this forever music or is this microwave music? And if it is microwave music, I do got to get it out hot, because it's not going to last in 6 months. If I release this a year from now, nobody's going to feel this. The beat, everything, I know it's going to be outdated. You can feel it. You knew it when you made the song. That's okay. Because some songs like that, those are personal pieces to you. As we grow as artists and get famous, those might just be songs that we only perform in Cleveland or only perform over here, and people are like, damn, like, I'll release this song, and it's like, I'm never gonna release that. That's just a microwave song for me. It was just that moment. But the Forever Jones, nah, I knew everybody was gonna like that, because I didn't chance my investment.
Like Bleu, for example, how was the process of making that? Like, when you made it, did you know that, you know, like what you saw, you feel?
Hell yeah. And I also knew the engineers, shout out Reason Recordings, I knew that the engineers available to me at the moment ain't never made no rock. Anything they ever made was all hip-hop. My first real job ever was working at a studio.
How was that like?
When you start, well, at least for me, I was raised by old school motherfuckers. So you need to learn how to actually record sound. Not just like somebody hop on the mic. Now you need to learn how to record, like with this mic, if I started spitting in it and you recorded it, could you make it sound good? Any type of mic, phone mic, it don't fucking matter. Can you load this up and make these people sound great? And can you have an ear to say, okay, his lows are just a little bit too much, and it keeps giving us like a kind of wobble feel to it. Let's just turn them down a little bit where it doesn't fuck up this person's voice. You know, and so like working in the studio, it just,
like, how did that go? We asked a little bit about the process of making Bleu, and you were talking about how some of the engineers you had to work with hadn't worked with like rock before.
Working at the studio taught me an old school thought of I need to record music, right?
Like just timeless shit, that forever shit you were talking about.
Or maybe a trumpet. What if a nigga walk in and he has a trumpet?
That's what I thought
and it's
you were
not just
talking
his
about
voice,
when
you know what I mean?
sound, like sound of guitar, sound of piano, sound of trumpet, sound of whatever.
So these engineers I'm used to, and a lot of engineers today, they've never been in a full set studio. They've never been in a real big studio where you can record a band. You can record me. I can have motherfuckers with a violin come in. I got whatever the case is. And so that working at the studio taught me a lot. In the way that, like, when I had songs like Bleu, when I had songs like Water 7, because I wrote Bleu probably 6 months before it came out. But Water 7 I wrote 2 years before it came out. But I knew, man, I don't have a beat for something like this. Yeah, I don't have the producers around me available right now to produce what I actually need, like, for what I need. And so when I made Bleu, I'm like, man, this shit, This is it. This is my pocket. I can't go to my studio and record this, but I did. I went with Rhythm and my lover at the time, and it just ain't hit. So then that same week, I went to my friend Kevin Land's house. Now, me and Kevin Land made Allegations together. That's more like a rock, alternative, country song. So I'm like, maybe he can record this and produce it. It didn't smack like that. So now I'm like, fuck, maybe I'll do it myself. And it did not smack like that. And I'm like, if this don't sound like rock like I need it, if this don't punch like I need it to, if this will be a waste of my fucking creative genius. This will be a waste of my talent. This will be a waste of my time. And fuck, a song that I really believe in. I really believed in that song. I still do. And that's why it has that, like, success that it has. Because I'm like, nah, like, I went to a studio session with a friend of mine, Louis King, like, and you've met Louis.
Yeah,
I think, yeah.
He put us to the podcast too with the Rhythm.
Awesome. Louis, he's introduced me to a lot of studio sessions since I was like 14, like wild studio sessions, and he just always invites me when he has a crazy one. And he was like, hey, so Ron Artest's son. And I don't know if y'all have to bleep that or not. I don't know. I'm a name dropper. I'm from fucking Long Beach.
Okay.
Ron Artest's son came through to Mike's studio. Mike is who engineered Bleu. Mike is well versed in everything. But when I met Mike, he's just a fucking DJ that go hard. But Louis like, nah, this my boy. He engineers and shit. And I'm like, fuck yeah. So I'm over the years seeing what Mike does. And shout out 88, you know, and they have their own team and what they do. And Mike and Roger. But after, like, while I'm sitting at this session, it's doing nothing but invigorating me. And I'm like, fuck, like, these niggas is killing it. They looking at me like, you want to rap? And I'm getting off of my COVID at this time. And I'm like, nah, like I'm chilling, y'all. Like, I'm still recuperating. I don't think I should use my voice. But the whole time I got my headphones in and I'm finishing Bleu. Like, I'm finishing, like, the last couple lines type shit where I'm just like, this has to be it. Like, the PTSD shit, that's when I was making that right there in the studio while they're recording their whole other own thing. And so I'm like, fuck that. Everybody starts to leave and shit. The song's finished, everything. This is like 4 or 5 hours later. Everybody's about to leave, and I'm like, yo, I'm gonna catch an Uber home. Louis looks at me. He knows I live in Long Beach. We're all the way in the valley. We're like deep in like Van Nuys. He's like, the Uber gonna be like 72 schmucks. Now that's like at low price. It's gonna be like 72 smucks. And I'm like, I really believe in this moment, and I really believe in what I'm about to do. And that all depends on this right here. And I turned around, I walked over to Mike, who's on the computer. He's like about to shut everything down. He's closing like FL. He's closing every fucking thing. And I'm like, Mike. And I hand him a blue face. And I said, I got 100 reasons why you should record my next song right now. He said, sure, man, just come through. And I said, no, like right now. It's already 12:30 in the morning. I had work at 6. I'm going full send. I'm going for it. Fuck it. I have to record this right now. I'm telling you, Mike. He's like, what's the song? I play the song. I'm yelling. He lives in a creative house, you know what I mean? And so he's like, all right, let's do it. Grabs the 100. Took me about 3 takes. 1 take of doubles, 1 take of ad-libs. And that's the whole song. And I told him, like, don't overthink it, nothing. I want to create this raw record sound. I want to recreate myself, Mike, and I need your help right now. And I need you to fully believe. Said a prayer like I always do in the studio sesh. And it was history.
Damn. That's fucking monumental, bro. Like, I like how much that shit could have not happened.
There was so much against it. There was so much against that song right there. And that's why it's still, to this day, anybody I submit it to a playlist or I show it to someone that's like an artist or something, they're like,
those are those songs, bro.
I want to hear this again.
Bro, see, and that's one of those songs I felt like that about, that is similar to that for me, weirdly enough, is a song you got on, bro. Because as you were talking about that, he sent me that beat, right? Or we listened to that beat as I was about to move to Monterey, 5.5 hours away. We did one session with my lover at the time, and it was a vibe, bro. We were right here rocking all night at this house, just making as many tracks as we possibly could. And then I don't know if you sent it to me then, but it might have been literally as soon as I got there. Like, as soon as I got there, I think you sent me that and like another beat. And you made it that day, I think. That's what it was. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we didn't get on it at that session, but then it was like just I didn't get to get on it at the session. You know what I mean? It was just one of the ones from that time. And then I was like, all right, I'll work on it when I get over here. And I loved it, bruh. And that was one of the things I wrote to it. Like, I remember writing, like, about my trials and tribulations, because, you know, the name of the song, it was like, it had like some weird like ups and downs to it, and I felt like that was the theme for me. And I wrote about like ups and downs in my life, and in a thematic sense. And I think it was one of those things that I just kept it, and I would spit it for people. Like, before I had it, I would spit it from Mauricio over the phone. I would spit it for like you said, a lot of people get introduced to shit, they run into people and shit. So I was just like spitting it for them. But then as I was writing it, you know what I mean? Like, I eventually posted it, and then I couldn't do the second verse, and I recorded it, and I heard the background of it, and then I just spit it to that like a little bit, and I did another slide. And I remember people commenting on it and people telling me, you know, here and there, like, something about those type of songs, like, you know what I mean, you just know, like, they feel like the one. And you kind of, it's almost like you hold them back, and you just feel like, nah, like, full send with this right here. Like, this is that one that, like, you know what I mean? And that was one of those songs for me. I felt like I had it months before I even tried to do something with it. Like, we were doing something with it now, and that was like, if I graduated in May, that was 3 years ago that happened, you know?
I feel that. That's sick. No, it's beautiful to hear both of those stories, and like to hear like the way like fate plays into it, or like the way, like you're saying, like fate and perseverance in a certain sense, because it's, I don't know if it's, I want to say fate because I'm a fatalistic person, or I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but like I'm a person that believes that things end up happening the way they're supposed to, but also I do see that like within that, like, that doesn't mean that we just stay idle. Like, we live our life the way we're supposed to, but like all in all,
moments
like,
where you just gotta like,
exactly within it though, like
you described, bro, like you took hold of that fucking moment, bro.
You just see those certain things that you're just like, it's like, I call it like signs in a certain sense, where it's like, it shows you like, all right, you see certain things and it's like, all right, I need to do this now. Like,
shit, even doing that workshop was like that for me, bro. Where at that time I wasn't for sure, like we didn't have nothing where I was like, I performed this, like I know this will go well.
I feel you. It was
like, let's learn this right now and just do it, because why would we not do this?
I feel like that whole thing has been like a big part of like why I've been confident in going through with like music and stuff, just because like when you go through and you see those signs and things that it's just like it just feels right. It feels right, and it feels confident like when you put that effort in doing the things that you do, and like it comes out so good in a certain aspect. And like even if it's at the very least like, because like for me, I see like a lot of music and art in a certain way as like self-expression, and like me trying to get like a certain emotion across, and as long as it's good enough to me, like I really don't care too much at the end of the day how other people receive it. But I feel like the things that usually resonate the most with me like that, because I know how much I put into it and how much I like, not only I put into it, but how much it means to me in a certain sense. I feel like that translates as well in the art itself. So it usually like that that energy gets kind of expressed through that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so like I hope people can like receive it, and it sometimes feels that way, that it's like that. Within that though, before I forget this, because I feel like I want to talk about the importance of, because you were talking about like the process of making songs and like wanting to decide when to put it out, when to put, like where to put it, but also sequencing. And we were talking about like the last song, like you were talking about how you put that song there, and it's like at the end of the day, like you were like, I don't know if people really like are gonna see it, but it's more for you. It's like, but even then, like beyond it being more for you, it's also like something that drives home like a certain point, like that feels like that. And it made me start to think of like beyond like our own stuff, but like all like ending songs on albums, like that kind of like importance that they hold in a certain sense when it comes to delivering a message or feeling and kind of wrapping up a project. And I wanted to get your thoughts on like
the role they fill.
Exactly.
I think because I'm huge on concept albums, all of my albums ever have been concepts. My first album ever was called Live from My Mother's Closet. Probably still on SoundCloud to this day.
Tough.
Little like 12-year-old me recording myself, engineering myself in my mom's closet, like just learning shit. Like it drove a hunger to me. And so to complete a concept album, that last song, like you were saying, has to drive home. But also because I'm such a different artist, that last song for me is always what's coming up. So the last couple songs, at least for me, in my philosophy and how I feel, the last like 3 should be like, it's similar to what you've been doing and something that fits musically, like sonically with the other ones, but it's a whole nother, it's a B-side. It's a true B-side to the album where like, if you made it this far, I'm gonna show you some shit.
I love myself way more than I love you.
Bro, that's crazy that you said that, because I feel like we've had the fucking same sentiment on the last songs on our debut albums, on the tip of it being what's next. Like those exact words I feel like have damn near been uttered, being like,
the title's called New Beginning.
Like it was called New Beginning on our very first album, because we were like, we took a lot of thought into that, because we're like, all right, if this is gonna culminate the album, it was a song we just made. Like some of those are ones we were working, you know what I mean? Like you said, been working on, trying to get them to where you want them to be. And then once they were there, this one was one that while we were finishing it, we've made it. And then we're like, damn, like, all right, this kind of like, how do you say? Like this still finished making that beat and working on it at the time of when we were done with the album. You know what I mean? Like we were pretty much about to wrap it up, if I remember. You know what I mean? Like we were adding finishing touches to it and shit like that. And I think that, like I'm saying, is it was to show the levels that we had reached in starting to create the music, because we had a lot of it was experimentation, and then we got to the point of experimenting to where it was like, okay, now this is the product of the experiment. That was like what we wanted to show on the last song, you know what I mean? Like this is the product of our experimentation throughout this project. And then we kind of went on like, let's rock that again next time.
Definitely on that, like trying to display like a sense of like variation in kind of like what we want to bring forward, like with both like the first album and even the second album as well. I feel like
it's a time to almost show that shit off.
Exactly,
right?
but I was gonna say like
not in like a boasting way, but like kind of just like hold in some of what you did, some of the new shit you got coming. Like
exactly, I feel like the way I loved the way you described it is like if you rocked with us until here, like I'm gonna show you some shit, like and like that was the way like I really wanted to approach, like, and I feel like we both wanted to approach like when we came across the album. It's like when you get to this point, like it has to be something that kind of encapsulates like a certain vibe, but also like really shows off like certain capabilities. And like I feel like on both ends
the sliders got to be turned up.
Yeah.
Like in 2K, like the last song, all sliders are turned up. Like if I was wilding out a little bit throughout the track, showcasing some like screaming shit, then on this song I gotta fucking scream in auto tune, and then the beat gotta change, and then they gotta like, you know what I mean? It's like if I dibbled and dabbled, I gotta fucking dibble dabble on the last one. Like I gotta really just like go there.
That's a fact.
That's really how I've approached it, at least for the most part. Even on our new shit, we got a freestyle tape coming after this pod finishes, and the last song on that one is like, how do you say, the most freestyle-y, if you will. Like, it's the most longest one. He's freestyling piano as well as I'm freestyling. So you know what I mean? It's like fully embodying it, if you will, instead of maybe like some points in time where it's like, all right, it's a dope freestyle over this style of beat, or this is a dope freestyle. Like it's like, all right, this is me really freestyling until I can't anymore, and then finding a golden moment in the end of it. But probably like one of the best ones I've done in the project. So I feel like that's how that one ended up to be, like that ending right there, where it was like, all right, looking at all of them, this one embodies this concept, you know what I'm saying, the most, because it shows me like figuring it out, you figuring out, and then us fucking landing together like on some crazy shit.
Exactly, like low-key, even it's funny how like the name's just kind of like playing to exactly, but like the name of that song is Patiently Fun, and I feel like it plays into that idea of like if you make it to here, like this is what you get for like the reward of fun. Like
you get to see it on a higher level, on an amplified level, rather than like the level that, you know, right here is I'm trying to give it to you where you could still process it, but here is the level where it's like, fuck if you could process it, like you made it now, you gonna get it in this raw form, you getting the cut now. You know, like
oh man.
But yeah, man, I mean, anything you want to talk about before we get to the life affirmations part, which is the last little bit?
Man, I feel like
one thing I had one thing to ask, but it was pretty much, I was gonna wait till it's the last thing.
Go ahead, go for it.
So
Go for it.
all I was gonna ask is, how do you feel about the music you've been making, like the new shit you're making? How do you feel about it?
The new shit I'm making is gonna change the world, but it's already changing my world, and so I'm loading it with all the magic. I'm loading it with all the, like, I'm listening to it every day. Right now, as of right now, I have 25 solid songs that I'm like, no, those are for sure the ones. I have thousands of songs recorded, but as of those, I got a cool 25 that I'm like, these are the ones. So I'm just waiting on the time and place to release them in the right way, like the right vision.
You like the zone you're in, though, the stuff you're creating and coming out with
Man,
right now?
I love it, but it's a different movie. And I have to be comfortable with changing the movie. I'm going from like thinking I was gonna be living the Soulja Boy life like I was, or the Lil Wayne life growing up, how I started. But in reality, my life is really gonna look like Post Malone. In reality, my life really gonna look like Wimbledon games and shit like that. Like, and motherfuckers be like, and here's like America's like singer Clash, and like motherfuckers gonna be like, you know, like big stadium shows and like some Queen shit, on some Elton John shit, on some Rick James, some, you know, Bobby Brown, like shit like that, like a real national hero type vibe. So
it's growing into that.
It's really growing into that now, where it's like, yeah, even when I curse, it's not like just to do it. It's more like every song has a message. Every song has the right people and the right time that it's supposed to reach.
That's hard. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I guess. So now we can, transition over to the life. Oh, this shit turned off.
I feel like half this conversation is like life affirmations.
Yeah, we talked a lot about life affirmations throughout the thing, but this one is gonna be a bit of a focus one because it isn't life affirmations, and it's how do you say and it's straight definition sense. The idea of this segment a lot of times is to just look at reflect on one thing you look at differently in the past month or year, 2 weeks, or however amount of time. Like I used to look at it this way, and now I look at it that way. So for me, I would say, shit, at the late, as regards this one, I'm gonna give one that has to do with music, because it's like I think we talked a lot about like the in-depth parts of like music and your career as an artist. And I think for me as an artist, some shit I used to look at one way was that I used to devalue my perspective as a youth. I learned that in finding a lot of my old songs and my feelings towards the old songs when I went to go look and find them. Like, I didn't put the right shine on my perspective that I should have put when I had the chance. And it's not in a reflective, like, oh, I should have done more. Like, it's in a tip of just, like, more so progressive now to, like, just look at that and sometimes, like, bring out parts of those perspectives in the shit I do, or like learn not to do that going forward, because it was shit that I go back to and I'm just like, wow, like I just love the way I approach certain shit. I didn't like it because maybe I was like, you know what I mean, what you talked about earlier, where like I didn't have the tools, or it was like, nah, wouldn't want to meet, like if I'm at the stage now where I want to meet the artists I want to work with and I feel like I'm there, I was like, back then I wasn't. So I didn't want that music because I felt like I didn't want them to see that, or me being in this stage to have this hold me down of what I was being perceived as. But if in that, I kind of looked at it like in a negative way. I was like, nah, like I could do better than that, so I don't need that. But looking back at some of that, I was like, some of it, like you said, you can't recreate. Some shit you can't get back. And it's important to note that and really just stay influenced by it, especially if it's yourself. Because it's still you know what I mean? Like, it's not like that's the part we forget. Like, you ever see old videos of yourself, or like old shit as you was a kid, like home videos, and you're like, that's still you though, and you trip out on how much that's you still. Like, I think that's my biggest affirmation, that's like me still.
Well, I'm like, it's good to see that you're sticking to, like, when you see those things of like, oh, that's me still, because I feel like that's kind of like the reaffirmation as to like who you are as like a person. It's like, all right, this is like my certain,
like we all change, but you know, like you see shit about yourself, you're like, damn, that's like I'm this person though, like that was me. Like,
no, I feel you.
Crazy.
I feel you. And especially like when you see it like as a child, like I feel like when you're a child, there's it lifts like a certain barrier that you kind of like sometimes put up as you grow older, but like, so like there's certain
just worldly factors in life that happens to you that change who you are, really.
Exactly. Like it's
like
exactly.
That was a pure form, and it's sometimes important to tap purity, into the pure you.
Exactly.
That's what I tripped out on, like just being like, whoa, like there was a time when I was capturing my pure self. Yeah. And I gotta tap into that because I ain't realized how special that was, because a lot of people don't capture themselves in that pure state, you know?
That's true.
It's just like a time, and later on we just kind of reminisce on it, like.
That's some real shit. I mean, fuck, because I mean that has me thinking on one thing that I was like, because we talk about like memories, right? And like how that kind of goes off like pictures, but and things like that, and even like when you see old memories of ourselves, but who are we before our memories? You know what I mean? Like, I was thinking about this, like, in the sense of like whatever our earliest memory is, because this is how I was thinking about it earlier, is like
our state, like who are we, how do we act before we start to base like how we act on our previous thoughts and shit, previous experiences. I mean,
because it plays in like different ways, like there's different ways to look at this, and it's like you could think of it in the sense of like who we are before we get our like long-term memory. Mm-hmm. So like as a child, as a baby, like up until we hit like say certain, I don't know what fucking age you start remembering. I feel like that varies for each person. I don't know about you guys, but like my earliest memory that I can possibly think of is roughly around preschool.
It depends.
Like,
I feel like it depends the day. Certain shit you just randomly remember. You might remember something a little bit deeper, a little bit further out.
Anything else beyond that, I feel like is stuff that's been like shown to me in like a picture and been like, oh, like, and it's like I can kind of like make an association with that. But even then, that's like, what's that thing that's been going around, the Mandela effect, like where like
just false memories of shit being like, and that shit's real, bro. Where like they say like, did you remember like this store was named this, and then you completely blanked it out your memory, and they show it to you, and you're like, damn, like I just seen a picture, and in my head I'm thinking that was the one I was going to, but really I completely blanked out the real one I was going to. I just was going to the new updated picture of that.
Exactly. And then just kind of touching on that and like the sense of like memories and like who we are, and like, because like that was like on that sense of before we get like our long-term memory, but then like it's
who we are. Like I think that's a cool thing though. Like who we are in spirit. Like if we babies and then they put us just in a fucking field, like what is this baby gonna do and what is this one gonna do? Like is this guy gonna start crawling to the left, grabbing fucking,
this one go to the right,
grabbing, is this guy gonna roll over, start crying? Like is that based on different biological factors? You know what I mean? Like,
no, it's crazy. It's like, it's wild to see. I mean, that as well, but like what I'm saying is like, even when that happens, we forget like those certain things, you know what I mean? Like those, because we're talking about like the pureness that comes with like childhood, right? Of like that you don't have these barriers of society and like all these other social pressures that you're just like, you're not fucking thinking about because you're a child, you know, you're not perceiving that. So it's like you have this kind of like, I don't want to say ignorance, but like the ignorance is bliss type thing of like where you're just kind of living your life and like living life purely, right? But even at a younger sense, like with that theory in mind, like of taking it back of like, okay, with like with some of our most pure forms, most pure things, like early developmental memories, like we just don't remember. And like I don't know, I just find that like interesting, and like that we can only go back to like a certain point to find like when we become, is that maybe that's just like prior to then it doesn't even fucking matter because we just can't form certain memories. It's like we're just kind of wandering around life, but then what is that of like, we're just wandering life for fucking 3 years, and like what is life in that time? Like
that's the information you've been having is like, what is life in that time? Like what would life be?
Yeah, like it was exactly in that sense. It was like what it was, who are we before, like the way I was like trying to word it best is like, who are we before our memories? Because like as humans, we're brains, you know what I mean? Like we have like this extra like,
and that being like the previous way we looked at it, just in general, like humans, we have brains. And exactly,
like, so if we're just brains and like the brain is like the memory, like this thing, like what is the time before our memories? And then it kind of got scary because like, not to, you know, trigger any, like for anyone that might have like Alzheimer's and stuff like that, but even that's like scary, the thought of like getting then, like when you get to that point, how does it like, and it's hard to tell because you can't really,
I was just saying, like without that base, just in general, like without having that base guideline, who would we be?
Exactly. You know what I mean? And it's hard. It's really hard to tell because like, and then because you combine that with the Mandela effect of like how memories can change, like it's like who are we? And like
I've seen 50 First Dates. I feel like I'll probably end up like that to lighten it up. Probably me. You know, if like didn't have no memories, probably that's a great exploration of that right there. Where she lost the memory, and then, you know what I mean, it was like she was put in the same scenarios. And
I feel like even if you didn't have a base for your memories, that personality is still there,
right? So
like I feel like for me personally, if I didn't have memories of people, or just like like not even people, just like that base of memories, my life would be the same, but in the way that like, if I didn't have all these like ambitions and goals and shit, motherfuckers would just be like, that's a cool dude. Like, motherfuckers, like, yeah,
I know what
we
you
all
mean.
know some cool dudes where you're just like,
That's crazy. Like, just like, it wouldn't be like a deeper connection to it. It would just be like, wow, that guy was sick. Like,
that dude walked up, dude, and he just asked me if I want a donut. I said, yeah, I trusted it, and lo and behold, that nigga had a whole box of donuts. Yeah. And that's just like me. Yeah, so.
yeah. And that's what I feel like about 51st Dates. I think the moral in it was that they would be the same. Like, he still fell in love with her. Because she was
Like
still her, even though
yeah.
she didn't have no base memories to looking like, you know, do her little special characteristics. But like, he was like, it's still her though. Like we still go doing the same shit every day, and it's still hitting the same.
Yeah. But low key in that situation though, she had memories of, like, she had
I don't remember
memories
that
up to a
movie that
certain
well.
point.
Oh, so she did?
Like,
I
'cause
thought every day she started, she ain't know shit until she like pulled up, and now.
No, because she would pull up to this, like, if I remember the movie correctly, she would pull up to like the same diner, and like she knew the people there, and she'd be like, yo, like, and she was like waiting on, like, I think she just kind of got stuck on like a day.
Like she like
something
that
happened.
day, some like a rock hit her in the head or some shit like that.
Yeah.
And then she literally just was like none of that she remembered, but then something very monumental happened that day type shit. Got you. That's how it was.
Exactly.
Damn, that's more fucked up. Like, I'd rather not have no bank of memories at all than to just have like one really dope thing erased. Like, that sucks.
I know it's an Adam Sandler movie, but I haven't seen it.
It's old.
It's old, yeah.
But imagine,
It's old to now. It's like 2002. Y'all crazy.
Yeah, I'm
That's
trying to
funny.
get man.
That's funny.
That's 20 years.
Like, shit.
That's a good amount of time in the entertainment world.
You could be grown. Shit.
That's like calling Snow Dogs a whole movie. It ain't that old. Yeah, man. It's
Some dogs is just getting gray hairs. Damn, I tell you, like, it's not old, but like my voice sprouting a couple grades. But damn, I feel like you had a great one, bro. I think that should make me think, bro. Like, what about you, man? What you been thinking, changing your mind about in the past any amount of time?
I've been changing my mind about what I define a friend to be, right? Like, as I grow, I'm starting to see, like, I am a king. I confide in kings and queens. While I can be around normal people, I need to be around people with that king and queen mindset for my longevity, for my sanity. So, does that mean I'm gonna have hella people around me? Nah, impossible. Kings and queens don't even reside in that way. So it's like, most of the time, I'm going to be with myself in my kingdom, and those people I can figure out. And that doesn't mean that they'll be like my bestest friends and I'll see them every day, but that does mean when I do see them, it's a good ass time. And everybody, whether big, small kingdom, we all have people within our kingdom that we can say like, oh no, that person rides for me. Like, if I called them tomorrow and I'm like, hey, Carl, I ain't talked to you in 3 years, but would you believe blah, blah, blah. Then be like, oh, shit, that's fucking nuts. And then you be like, what about you? And then be like, I mean, shit, I got promoted at work. Now I'm a manager. And you're like, oh, shit, that's fucking dope, Carl. You know what I mean? It doesn't really matter at that point, right? Like, it's breaking down my expectations for what I define as a friend or best friends and shit like that. Because, I mean, I'm getting into my sexy years. I'm getting into my time to, like, be like, man, I'm in LA. I know it's sex clubs and shit out here. That's not something you can necessarily be like, yo, homie, you trying to pull up to the fucking sex club with me? Yeah. Niggas would be like, no.
That's why I'm about to move to New York, bro. I'm out of here.
That's something you gotta be like, all right, you just gotta hype yourself
know nobody
up
there
one day.
neither, too. I don't know no one out there. I could go.
And you just hop in, you know what I mean? So I'm at them years now where I'm like, there's this bar. It's a block away from my house. Like, not even a block. It's like probably like 7 houses away. I've always seen it. And I've been like, man, I'm gonna go in there. And lately I've been hyping myself up like I have to go in this fucking bar because I need a place where I can go get a drink at any time. And it's right here by my house. Like, I should be able to do that. But also, I have crazy social anxiety. Yeah. And so I'm like, oh, like, I need a friend. But it's like, nah, I'm redefining that in my life right now where it's like, nah, fuck that. I need myself to get my ass in there and go have a fucking drink, sit at that stool. Don't worry about it. That's been a
fucking battle with my fucking self, bro. To go to the bar by my fucking self.
Come on,
I want to, bro.
That shit's so tough.
I really be wanting to, but then that same social anxiety hits where I'm just like, do I really want to do this? Like, I kinda, and not gonna lie, I've hyped myself to do it once, and they're about to close. Tell me why I hyped in. Went in there, he was like, it's over here, bud. I was like, all right. Like, I just went home. I was like, what did I come in here, bro? Like, but in my head though, like, that's a thought that comes to my mind, like, cause that's just like an ideal movie fucking spot that I would like check off in my list of just being able to be like, man, like, I could just pull up at the lawn day, be like, yo, give me a motherfucking, give me a Jameson ginger ale, bro, and just leave me fucking alone.
And just chill up right there. And if somebody approaches you and shit like that, and then it's a good time. You know what I'm saying? Then there's your good time. But otherwise, you gotta go in the shit with your own, like, your own best interest at heart. You know what I mean? Man. Like, I've had a lot of good friends over the years and had their interests at the peak of it, but it's not as if in those same ways were they serving me. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm a king and I'm serving your kingdom, I'm helping you, that's only off of the basis that we got a treaty because you helping my kingdom and we doing this shit together. And if in any way we're not doing that, then this ain't no charity. I can't just do that. You know what I mean? Like, what does that say to my other, like, subjects, the people who are here, like, actually making this shit possible? Like, you're just abusing my power. You're just abusing my kindness. So now it's just like, nah, like, there's some amazing people out there. And whether or not I go looking for them or they find me, I know I don't have to worry about that shit because, like,
you're really defining what it means to be your friend in general.
Straight up.
And that builds it for yourself right there.
Important. It's very important. And I think it's important that you outlined it, like, the role it takes in being able to do things on your own. Because that's, like, a big part of the step is, like, knowing the roles that others fill and the roles that you fill and the things that you can do on your own. Because, like, yeah, it's a rough thing. Like, I feel like that's, like, especially, like, on the friend tip, like, that was something I struggled with, I feel like, a lot in the past couple of years, especially when I was, like, moving schools around. Like, I wasn't sure what, like, even my definition of friend was as I was going, like, through the different schools. And, like, especially when college came, like, in the college times when I was doing that, like, going to different cities and places where I was living on my own, like, I was really kind of put in a position where, like, fuck, like,
that shit was interesting for me though. Like, I feel like I learned a lot about that friends factor in a new area because it makes you question it hella. You know what I mean?
It is because there's, like you said, there's what are we getting across? Like, when you go out with certain friends, like, are we getting off, like, just doing what they want to do, doing just what I want to do, or is it like? Is it a mix of it?
And a lot of times, like, it was a mix because that social anxiety would drive it too, where I would have people that I would maybe gravitate to because they'll be more down to just do stuff. But, like, then there's people that was helping me do what I needed to do, like, to further my life. And it was, like, learning the balance of that. You know what I mean?
Sometimes I wish I could go back to the motherfuckers who was helping me on that path and be like, yo, I wish I would have gave you a little bit more time. Like, those people should have been my bestest pals, but instead I was spending more time with motherfuckers people just taking from the pot. Stuff. just that taking from your pot, man.
Facts.
Good. Man, thank you for fucking coming through today,
Thank you.
This was dope, man. I appreciate y'all for having me.
Man, it was a great talk. I feel like we got to cover a lot of cool shit about your life and music that, I mean, shit, I didn't even know about, and I feel like it's really great to get to talk to someone about that, which that I, like, resonate with in that way as an artist. You know what I mean? Like, your music is one of the couple musics I've met of people that are like on the come up that like me, I see that shit and I'm like, damn, that's like where I aspire to be, like, because it's feeling in it, you know what I'm saying, and it's dope on a level artistically, and deeper than that, it's the combination of the feeling and yourself, like the way you're able to like embody like yourself with that, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's like, I don't know, those things connect to me and artists that I like that's why Kid Cudi's one of my favorite artists and shit like that when I was like in 7th grade, like starting to come music, because like, I don't know, you just hear it in certain people, like you hear the way that they are an individual, and that resonated with me, man. I was like,
appreciate
shit.
that.
I was like, that's what I'm about.
Honestly, no, I feel the same way as Wes. Like, the way you encapsulate all of that is amazing to see, and I'm so thankful that we were able to have this conversation with you, because your perspective on things is super interesting to one, to listen to, but two, I think is like Wes said, is like, in diving further with this and like not knowing, you got like, there's certain things that like in learning about these things, I was just like, wow, like this is some crazy dope stuff, and like I felt like there was still like another hour or two that we could have had in like really trying to deep dive like on all this stuff that you mentioned earlier. Like, I was like, wow, there's a lot of really interesting like things about that, and so like that encapsulated, I think, gets encapsulated very well with your art, in the fact that you have just so much going on, and
the word we throw around a lot, I'm very monolithic. In the sense, not monolithic, that's the opposite of it. What's the word we use always talking about? Where it's like, we always talking about like the shit, like multifaceted, in the sense of like, you know what I'm saying, doing all the different shit, but saying like how we're not monolithic. That's the topic we always talk about, how we're not one thing. Yeah. And like, that's how we resonated in the group in forming this shit. Cause like, it was a lot of time, like how you talked about your path earlier, and thinking like, I thought my path would be this. That was when I found Mauricio. Like, I thought my shit had to be one route. Like, I was gonna be a rapper. This is what I was good at. Like, when I met him, I realized that my saving grace would be being able to be multiple different things. That's when I'm at my best. And like, I think in you, that's like, you embody that. Like, in your music, everything you do, like how that creates its own lane. Being like, not one thing, being all of the things that make you. Like, that's what makes people like uniquely who they are. You feel what I'm saying? That's what I meant.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I'm glad y'all peep it. Shit, I work hard on it.
And thank you again for coming. It was a great talk. Any last things you want to say to?
Well, yeah, let them know where they can find you. You know what I'm saying? Where you could
at Listen Clash on everything until I own just at Clash. But I'm working on that. We've been working on that for a while. Eventually I will be just Clash and everything, but till then, Listen Clash, or just different variations of Clash. I got C Clash if you want to like catch me on Twitch and shit like that. You know, different like mediums and shit of Clash. I enjoyed this. This was very fun, and I enjoyed the ambiance shit. I would say one augment at the end for the next time y'all have me. You gotta put out an APB in the city before I come. Like, Clash is coming to the city, and y'all gotta have at least like 2, 3 like fine, beautiful women in the crowd, like just watching the whole thing. So at the end, I'll have somebody go home warm to, and like even me and her could have our own little podcast.
I got you on Saturday.
You did. I'm gonna put that like that. That's a part of my writer. You know what I'm saying? Any show that I do, anything, it's like, yeah, I need at least 1, 2, like 3.
Nah, that's a part of my writer too. Like, I've definitely put that in the writer a few times. So it's like a few. You know what I mean? Like a few
couple
teams
people
have to be in there first.
Not necessarily teens, more like teens that know I'm there. Whether or not they come home with me or fuck with me or not, it's just like they gotta know that I'm coming. You know what I'm saying? It's like say like if y'all ever come to Long Beach, and which y'all should, or y'all ever come to any event with me, before you get there, I'm already gonna get everybody to brief. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a general in that way, where it's like, all right, I'm coming through with blah blah blah, and the homie does this. Yeah. So when you show up, already the people, the men, the women, everybody's already gonna be like, oh yeah, for sure. Clash already told me, and if he fuck with you, then and this is where it's moving on to the next shit. That's what I need too.
I got you on the entrance,
I need
bro.
that. You know
I
what I'm saying?
coming in, people knowing you finna come, you know.
Unless I'm at the bar or movies or something by myself, I need people to be like, yo, like, you know who that is? Because if not, nobody know who the fuck I was, and that's okay with me. But also, it's like, no, this is why I got friends,
make you feel warm,
and a team and shit for people to be like, hey, like, I know you're dope. You should probably meet this other dope person. It doesn't even mean we have to do anything like romantically. I'm just talking about on a friend basis level. Like, that's how I be feeling about life.
That is why I feel like we started, like, you know, we get peace out whenever we end, but I feel like that's why we started the finales, if you will, because we looked at it as like a mixer opportunity. Like, people outside the pod, people on the pod, available ability to bring people together. And the ability to bring people together is varied in that word. You know what I mean? Like, you could bring people together for whatever the fuck. There wasn't really a goal in what we were bringing people together for. It was about communing. You know what I'm saying?
I'm fucking with the idea of a live audience, though. I think that's like the move. Season 2.
Season 2, we gonna have like TRL up in this bitch. We gonna have like little homies.
I'll post up in a little chair. Like.
So, but thank y'all for tuning in, everybody.
Peace out, everyone.
How y'all like?
Vine Tree Radio.
Sorry, Blue. Oh my God. Hallelujah. Beat the jar. She got me to come mama. Come, sorry, Blue. Oh my God. Hallelujah. Beat the jar. She got me to come mama. Come. I was running through. Baby, can you hide me? Somewhere by the vegetables, that way they won't find me. Put me in a cookbook, put me in a good song. You know all my passcodes, hit me on my backbone. Hit me on my chirp. Promise this won't last long. I've been doing dirt so bad, you wouldn't even believe me. Yeah, it hurts so bad, but keep it cool as a kiwi. Release when nobody see me, it just be me and my TV. I hurt you too, I can see it. I saw your face when I did it. It came with distance and digits. You think it's all about women? I'm tired of lying and jigging. I'm on the run, can you dig it? I want my buns getting skinny. On the bus with a blicky. Sorry, Blue. Oh my God. Hallelujah. Beat the jar. She got me to come on, mama. Come on, sorry, Blue. Oh my God. Hallelujah. Beat the jar. She got me to come on, mama. Come on, mama. Cali, move like Loki. I'm with the smiley. I robbed it. I fuck my future. Might be a daddy. I'm thugging, menace the public. Just keep it running. I'm venting, long way from Christian. I miss my friends. Can you raise one high for lost souls like me in the sky? I didn't choose this hood. I was raised in the dirt, staying 10 toes down to my grave in the earth. PTSD, sleep, PTSD, they against me. Feel it in my chest beat. Fuck PTSD, I got PTSD. Fuck PTSD, I got PTSD. Fuck, I didn't choose this hood. I was raised in the dirt, staying 10 toes down to my grave in the earth. PTSD, sleep, PTSD, they against me. Feel it in my chest beat. Fuck PTSD, I got PTSD. 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 Fuck Sorry, Blue. Oh my God. Hallelujah. Beat the jar. She
thug on the blacktop, chasing his damn dreams like your boy hit the jackpot. I know you think that I'm good, but all of these classes, molasses, feeling trapped in some wood. Like in case I grab a song and wait, roll up the bait and shun the hate. I'm on, it's fate. Can't you believe, I got all these blessings, listening to all your lessons. I must have been learning something. Fuck it, barely earning nothing. Oh shit, they like my brand and this is it. I'm dirty dancing with the devil, homie. Please turn up the treble for me. Used to just watch DVDs, now it's TED Talks every morning. I'm vibing to the moment. Train riding to the morning, train riding to the morning. I'm vibing to the morning. I feel you. Train riding to the morning. Order up. Monday 1 a.m. Damn, I feel like sleeping. Tuesday 2 a.m. Do not feel like speaking. 3 a.m. on Wednesday night. I think I see the weekend. Thursday just for me though. I do not think I need it. Friday proceeded. 4 a.m. I'm still up. Used to have insomnia till everything got realer. On a whole new pillar. And now I'm walking like Thriller. And my hair turned vanilla. I'm saying I'm vibing to the moment. Train riding to the morning, train riding to the morning. I can't change this right now. I'm vibing to the I'm really not trying to hurt you though. Train riding to the morning. Chugga, one more train, chugga. 2 more pains, chugga. 3 damn buses, chugga. This week I got a whole ass dozen. I should be sleeping. Fuck. I should be sleeping. Dozing off counting shit.
Mind Tree Radio.
I stopped running and caught my balance. I was in panic. I stopped running and caught my balance. I was in panic.
I feel enthralled with rage, a manic fits involved. I scratch my head and turn my page, I'm all alone now. No muse for inspiration, I travel deep inside my mind, I'm sleepless half the time. Thank God I'm building patience, I let my inspiration flood my basement. Gasping for air now, where and how, we gon' get it back. This crown belongs upon my head, still with it in it back.
Brain damage as a young nigga, but I'm still intact. The only time I feel whole is when I peel nails back.
Skin and flesh, let it go, mind some gold. I'm screaming now, eyes red, they turn to blue. I'm crying now, calling up, I turn to you. In this moment here, am I a man? I never knew what's a young boy to do when his head lost in the glitz and the glam, and he has not a plot or a plan. Look it over, but he thought he
thought wrong, nigga. When he's swinging ass, he can never handle cold. You better lay it up. The hawk is out, young nigga. Sit that jacket up. I probably do you one better. Do my brain back. Touch your point, I'm a better. Wow.
Let's see who jacking my style. I do this shit for my health. How many layers I got now? Wow.
Yeah. King shot, big ol' walker flock. I can't be your zaddy unless your pockets on Big Papa. Smell just pop a roach, sub me till I'm ghost. Go see Long Beach, pay me, I been in the phone. For my pockets up, get shit back by lunch. Lose it all again, cause I'm sitting for this dough. Johnny Deppin', Jim Carrey and mask. Try to go to college, but my mama said get bags. Fuck, I look like mad. Bitch, I been in crash. Don't put me in work. Give me my awards. Let me be a dork. Bitch, I grew up poor, sleeping by the door, fighting with them sticks, selling drugs and watching porn. Said it is what it is, but my people want more. I done hopped your little fence, rolling weed on the porch. In the house of hip hop, selling books and crash courses. Range of time morphing, rising sign scorpion. Trap line cook got 2 for 5s working. Range of time morphing, rising sign scorpion. Trap line cook got 2 for 5s working. 2 for 5s, 2 for 5s clash.
Mind Tree Radio.